On the way back from the Northern Kingdom, should I bring something local for Veronica? Because of his own reasons, he had to interrupt the wedding midway, and as Queen Veronica rarely asked for something, Leon naturally took her small request very seriously. From hastily leaving the banquet hall, to rushing with the female cleaner to the boarding tower, and finally boarding the Sky Clipper heading to the Northern Kingdom, Leon was still pondering this question. As the human kingdom that is the northernmost on the continent, with even a small part bordering the polar region, the Northern Kingdom Ashido, though extremely vast, is at least 70% ice plains, thus being referred to as the Ice Plains Nation. Or rather, it could be said that due to those ice plains unsuitable for human habitation, the Frost Plains country Ashido is the official name of the Northern Kingdom, while Northern Kingdom is just a colloquial name given due to its geographic location. And as for what distinctive local products this kingdom at the northernmost edge of humanity has, it seems there really aren't any notable ones. Recalling what he had read about some natural conditions of the Northern Kingdom in William's geography book, Leon couldn't help but scratch the back of his head in worry. According to the book's records, the climate and environment of the Northern Kingdom are extremely harsh, with more than half of its territory almost perpetually covered in ice and snow. The winters there are severe and long, and the summers are chilly and short, with nearly 30% of the territory permanently frozen. Even in the hottest summer, the average temperature stays below 0 degrees Celsius, and there is very little rainfall. Or to put it more bluntly, the word rainfall is almost redundant in the Northern Kingdom. During the hottest 7 or 8 days of summer, there might occasionally be some scattered rain that's so sparse it's not even worth calculating. Apart from low temperatures and snowfall, due to the vast region of open flat ice plains, the Northern Kingdom often experiences terrifying storms sweeping across the entire country from west to east, at least 14 or 15 times a year. The average wind speed of these super-large storms is basically around 20 to 30 meters per second, but in very special circumstances it can sweep over 100 meters in a second. If a heavy snowfall coincides, the resulting snowstorm is truly destructive, destroying almost everything it encounters. Even the unique giant mammoths of the Northern Kingdom, averaging close to 10 tons, would be flipped head over heels in the snow when encountering such a scale of snowstorm. As for the ordinary people of the Northern Kingdom, the people of the Northern Kingdom are not fools. How could they possibly live on such a deadly ice plain? Although the region there is extremely vast and the resources and minerals are not scarce, the areas suitable for human habitation are actually quite limited. Even digging ice cellars underground won't work. Because with the extraordinarily harsh climate of the Northern Kingdom, if a snowstorm blew through the night, there could be a 3 to 5 meter thick layer of snow directly piled on the ice cellar's door by the next morning, risking suffocation before even digging out. And such brainless northerners had already been wiped out clean by snowstorms 800 years ago. As for the remaining sensible northerners, like the royal capital Rihe City of the Northern Kingdom, the majority chose to live by the mountain. Even though living by the mountain has its own risks, with occasional disasters of varying sizes, it's still better than waking up to find the entire family has ascended to heaven, with all possessions, be they humans, horses, cattle, sheep, or tents, swirling in the wind together. In short, such a wild climate makes normal living quite difficult, naturally pushing everything towards practicality, making it hard to have exquisite and unique local specialties. Liquor, smoked meat, sweets, sausages, biscuits, feels slightly famous, basically all sorts of food and drink, and a range of high-calorie foods, and Veronica surely isn't short of these, making it not worth bringing them back from such a distance. Even though he felt that whatever he brought back for her, she would happily accept it, since she made a request, he should surely give something more meaningful. Strong liquor could be something to bring for the director. She'd definitely like it. Taking out a small notebook and charcoal pencil he carried, after writing liquor on it, Leon, sitting by the window of the Sky Clipper, couldn't help but turn his head towards the female cleaner next to him. To really get some local specialties, directly asking her, a local from the north, would naturally be the most convenient way. It's just that after Veronica made a fuss over her issue, what if she really took a fancy to him, or started having other thoughts? "Why are you always looking at me?" Noticing Leon's gaze, the female cleaner, who was eating her onboard meal, couldn't help but tense up, instinctively guarding the fruit pizza on her small table. But soon, as if remembering something, she hesitantly put down her hand. Then, gritting her teeth, picked up her dining knife and firmly cut a small piece of pizza, putting it on Leon's plate with a fork. That's all. I haven't had my fill. Veronica, you're really overthinking this time. Looking at her giant pizza, bigger than a pot lid and needing to be folded into 3 layers to fit, and then glancing at the tiny piece of pizza on his own plate, Leon's face darkened. Honestly, there's no way she'd fancy me. I bet in her eyes, I'm less appealing than a piece of pizza. And it's even pineapple pizza. Have it yourself. Pushing back the pizza with at least thrice the cheese, pulling stringy threads, Leon looked at her ridiculously large lunch and couldn't help but sarcastically ask, "Where on earth did you get this thing? My tablecloth isn't even as big as this pizza." "Of course, I brought it myself." Stabbing the piece of pizza Leon returned and putting it into her mouth, the female cleaner said with a face full of bliss, "Your kingdom stuff might be exquisite and delicious, but when it comes to filling the stomach, northern things are the best." "Indeed, there's no arguing with that. Just this cheese thicker than the table board. I really haven't seen anyone besides you who can swallow it." Unable to hold back a few internal complaints about northern culinary culture, Leon glanced at the 3 deputy directors on the other side of the aisle resting with closed eyes, then asked the female cleaner, "Melly, does the North have any specialties?" "Of course, there are many." Nodding in response, the female cleaner swallowed the pizza in her mouth and enthusiastically started counting on her fingers. "There are many types of jerky alone, but I only remember the most famous ones like snow mammoth jerky, ice cave rhino dried meat, barbed elephant smoked rib, thick-hoofed donkey palm, saber-toothed tiger whip." "Stop! Hold it!" Raising his hand in a stop gesture, Leon, who was preparing to write a purchase order on his notepad, couldn't help but frown and say, "Besides food, don't you have any other specialties in your area? Besides food?" Upon hearing Leon's words, the female cleaner was momentarily stunned, then looked back with an incredulous expression. "Why besides food? Coming to the Northern Kingdom and not enjoying the food, wouldn't that be a waste of the trip? You can try the food, but I mainly want to bring something back for Veronica." After explaining his plan, Leon asked expectantly, "Melly, can you recommend some specialties that aren't food? Preferably something exquisite and luxurious." "Specialties besides food. Is there really any need to care about that?" "Alright, it's my fault for asking you these things instead." Seeing the female cleaner's hesitant expression, Leon couldn't help but shake his head helplessly. Just as he was ready to put away his notepad, a voice full of resentment sounded from the seat behind them. "Besides food, our kingdom of Ashido also has large bone carvings, white beast furs, grum-colored carpets, ice crystal amber, and snowstone ornaments, etc. These are all exclusive to our northern kingdom. Additionally, near the warm magma sea on the eastern side of our kingdom of Ashido, there is a small, ever-temperate valley oasis where tiger-headed basswood bees produce snow basswood honey. It has a rejuvenating and skin-nourishing effect. Even though snow basswood honey is technically food, Her Majesty Veronica should like it." Oh. Upon hearing these much more reliable gift options, Leon couldn't help but be overjoyed, jotting down a list in his notepad while repeatedly expressing his thanks. Meanwhile, the female cleaner, startled by the commotion, turned around and looked at the diplomatic minister, asking in astonishment, "Lord Stamo? How come you two came along?" "How come I came along? Damn it, I'm just the deputy envoy." Upon hearing the female cleaner's question, the Northern Kingdom's diplomatic minister was immediately flustered, and even visibly trembled at the lips. "My dear lady, with you, the only one qualified to sign the treaty, having been dragged away by their prince, and with me having no authority to sign national agreements, why would I foolishly stay there? Was I supposed to wait for the wedding cake? Moreover, I haven't even asked you to go through thick and thin with me. But could you at least give me a heads up before you leave?" I finally managed to reassure our allies, making solemn vows ensuring them that there's absolutely no collusion between our northern kingdom and the other side. But looking back, there's our princess chasing after their married prince, scampering away. Ran away. With countless words stuck in his throat but unable to come out, the Northern Kingdom's diplomatic minister helplessly caressed the finger marks on his neck, almost breaking into tears from the indignation. "Dear lady, do you even know that upon seeing you leaving with him, the pirate commander of the Sao Kingdom, known for his wild demeanor, was fuming mad with bulging green eyes? If not for Her Majesty Veronica summoning the guards in time, he might have strangled me on the spot. With this situation you've created, how could I dare to stay with only a few lives?" Seeing the diplomat filled with unspoken words yet speaking volumes through his eyes, the female cleaner, upon gathering her wits, chuckled awkwardly and apologized. "Lord Stamo, sorry, an emergency situation arose on my end, requiring immediate departure, so I didn't have time to inform you." Emergency situation? Glancing at the massive triple-folded pizza on the female cleaner's table, and then at Leon, who was leisurely writing a shopping list as if he was on vacation rather than on a business trip, the Northern Kingdom's diplomatic minister couldn't help but curse them silently. "Damn it! Emergency, my foot! Truly, what we're doing is extremely important." Seeing the diplomat's unbelieving expression, the female cleaner had to explain. "You know, aside from being a princess, I'm also a cleaner at the cleanup bureau, hence I have some rather special abilities and in short, though Leon and I seem quite laid back, internally we're actually quite tense." "Bah, I don't believe a word you say." Just as the female cleaner was fervently explaining, attempting to prove that there indeed was an emergency, and that she wasn't deliberately ignoring the diplomat, Leon, having finished writing the shopping list, glanced at her, then extended his right hand, gently touching the side of her fork with his index finger. Sizzle. Name: calming saliva, calming, soul, thought. Appearance: a colorless, slightly viscous transparent liquid, with a subtle, elegant fragrance akin to bluebell flowers. Even the slightest whiff of its evaporated aroma can calm one's heart. Ability: strong sedation, soul-soothing, thought acceleration. Cost: after consuming large amounts within a short time, one's appetite will uncontrollably increase until the abnormal object is wholly metabolized. File: the current princess of the Northern Kingdom, Melsond Aishi, simultaneously possesses two special bloodlines: gluttony and calming. These two bloodlines are similarly potent and balance each other, normally causing no abnormalities. However, after her appetite is greatly satisfied, diminishing the influence of the gluttony bloodline, she will unconsciously secrete small amounts of a special bodily fluid with calming effects due to the influence of her calming bloodline. Evaluation: an exceptionally effective abnormal object that only requires drinking over 1.04 milliliters in a single instance to instantly double basic thinking speed, with negligible cost. But given your moral standards, you likely wouldn't want to collect and use it, would you? Would you? Contamination value: 0.1. Of course, I wouldn't use this stuff. Why emphasize it twice? Do I look like a pervert? After closing the prompt in exasperation, Leon touched the horns of the black goat, feeling the state of his soul, and unsurprisingly discovered that his soul was indeed in a peculiar state. Traces of pale blue mist had somehow seeped into his soul, calming his initially quite anxious soul silently. Feels similar to when I fed her cake earlier. Ordinarily, I wouldn't actively feed her food, but after chatting with the female cleaner for a bit and unknowingly inhaling traces of the calming saliva, it soon felt like no big deal anymore, so I casually handed over a piece of cake. Moreover, when the task advance notice arrived, I was initially quite tense inside, but with Melly following, batting her eyes and chatting briefly with me, I soon calmed down once more. Even amidst looming danger, I unconsciously started contemplating about local specialties. TSK. This abnormal object is exceptionally formidable. Just facing each other at the dining table and chatting can lead to a hit. For those unaware, the likelihood of being ambushed successfully is virtually 100%. Giving the female cleaner a complex look, Leon, partially exempt from the calming saliva's effects with the activation of materialism, took out a light-blocking eye mask provided on the Sky Clipper and peacefully lay back to sleep. Although the state was abnormal, I studied etiquette for most of last night and barely got any rest. Also, there's nothing much I can do until the Sky Clipper arrives tomorrow afternoon, so I might as well catch up on some sleep. Besides, although the situation in the Northern Kingdom is urgent, isn't Melly's great-uncle, Director Baltro of the Aquarius branch, still there? Being one of the oldest 12 Zodiac directors and a stalwart of the cleanup bureau, could he truly not hold out for even one day? Just as Leon put on his blindfold and happily drifted into dreamland on the Sky Clipper, the Sky Clipper he was on slowly flew over the border of the two countries and reached the Northern Kingdom's territory. And just as this critically important Sky Clipper had barely crossed the hexagonal mountain range at the border, the Northern Kingdom's signature storm disaster conveniently arrived, wildly wreaking havoc on the airship's flight path. However, as a Sky Clipper that regularly traveled the northern traveling thrush route, the crew of this airship naturally had preparations for the common disasters of the Northern Kingdom, and their response measures were extremely well prepared. Under the captain's command, the Sky Clipper only released some fuel and lowered its flying altitude. Then, by intermittently navigating along the leeward mountain foothills and avoiding overly turbulent airflow areas, it successfully stabilized the airship and mostly avoided the storm. Moreover, because the whole process was so skillful, most of the passengers, like Leon, who were soundly asleep, didn't even feel any turbulence and hadn't woken from their dreams, completely unaware they had just been through a minor disaster. It was just that, no way, why is he here? Through that small disaster, sensing a familiar aura, the raven-masked man, who was advancing towards the Earth's core via the hot river, couldn't help but shiver instinctively. The reason he accepted the mission in the north, aside from the fact that causing massive natural disasters matched his authority over calamity and chaos, was mainly to avoid that deadly food god. According to the intelligence provided by the Aquarius director, it was the war initiated by the Northern Kingdom that led to the death of the food god's parents from the cleanup bureau. With his grudge against the Northern Kingdom, he was unlikely to be sent by the cleanup bureau to the north, allowing me to avoid a confrontation with him. After all, during Aquarius' ascension to the palace last time, if it hadn't been for the backhand left by the Aquarius director which unexpectedly saved my life, I would probably already be lying dead in his stomach. Recollecting the terrifying sensation of being swallowed whole by Leon and having my entire soul eroded and worn away, the raven-masked man's heart chilled suddenly, and he began to uncontrollably exude cold air. I've been the god of calamity for so many years and have sparred against numerous chiefs and directors of the cleanup bureau, but I have never encountered such a crazy human. In the past, many of those cleaners from the cleanup bureau were stronger than the food god, some even capable of easily killing me, but none of them gave me a feeling as terrifying as this overly young food god. Those cleaners, when facing me, displayed anger, fear, hatred, and disgust. But no matter their specific emotions, they always cared about me. However, this food god, he genuinely only wants to eat me. Recalling the bizarre anticipation hidden in Leon's eyes when he looked at me, the raven-masked man's scalp tingled, and he instinctively halted his steps. Compared to any fear or anger, in that damned food god's heart, the temptation to tear me to pieces and swallow me whole, savoring the taste, far outweighed the desire to simply kill and eliminate me. In his eyes, rather than being an enemy that must be killed, I am more like a delicacy that delivered itself to his door. Like a pig foolishly breaking through a fence only to find itself in his vegetable patch munching on his cabbages. Simply driving me away is not enough. He must catch and thoroughly enjoy me first. But those in the Slaughter King Association have never truly faced the food god and simply can't understand how I feel. They think I have been wounded by the scattered authority of fear, leading to uncontrollable dread towards the food god. But the actual situation is nothing like they imagine. No way. I need to change my task. I must stay far away from him. Dongya. Noticing his companion had stopped, the figure ahead with the white wolf head mask turned around, casting a surprised look at him. What's going on with you? And why does your condition seem so chaotic? Has your soul not recovered from the damage of the fear authority last time? My soul is not the problem. Upon hearing the inquiry from the wolf head mask, the raven-masked man couldn't help but respond angrily. I've told you all many times. While my soul has been worn away a bit, it has nothing to do with that damned fear authority. Yeah, my bad. Glancing at the terror-filled eyes of the raven-masked man, the figure with the white wolf head mask didn't argue but responded noncommittally, then slowly walked over, kindly inquiring. So what's your situation now? Can you still accompany me into the molten path? I. Hesitating for a moment upon hearing the question, the raven-masked man then replied, Shuabe, I'm thinking, should we abandon this mission? After all, the Witch Kingdom and Thousand Sails maritime countrysides have already progressed quite a bit. With them as our fallback, even if we abort ours, it should not affect. What nonsense are you talking? Interrupting the proposal made by the raven-masked man, the frowning Shuabe couldn't help but reprimand. Although preparations have been made on the Witch Kingdom side, the Great Witch King's daughter has been hiding cautiously for years. If she remains patient, enduring until the Great Witch King passes away without returning for a final visit, we might not be able to capture her. It's the same with the Thousand Sails maritime country. Even if the Sun Corpse's curse ritual becomes irreversible, missing only one more exposures to kill all targets, the Cleanup Bureau may yet have methods to prevent the sun from breaking through the moon-covered sea fog. Therefore, our current position is the most recently successful group. If we achieve success and any other group succeeds once again, the Watcher's Palace will be unable to prevent the true God from entering or exiting. We are the ones meant to be the safety net for others. The statement makes sense, but that food god is coming soon, and I'm worried we can't hold this position. Dongya. Looking at the tongue-tied raven-masked man who remained anxious, Shuabe frowned, guessing aloud. Did you discover something that made you suddenly propose abandoning the mission? I have indeed found some things. Nodding upon hearing the words, the raven-masked man quietly replied. In a small storm, I spotted a sky clipper coming up from the south, having crossed the hexagonal mountain range, and inside. From the south? Is it the Cleanup Bureau's food god? Yeah. No wonder you're so flustered. The primary wielder of fear, who injured you, is about to arrive. Seeing the raven-masked man, who has harbored a deep psychological shadow after nearly being eaten last time, and who fears Leon like the devil, Shuabe couldn't help but shake his head before confidently proclaiming, that food god is indeed a bit problematic, but while it's difficult to kill him, if it's just about stopping him from causing trouble, that's much easier. ZZ. Halfway through my sleep, a somewhat familiar noise suddenly sounded in my ears, faintly reminiscent of the commotion when receiving a badge. Leon instinctively woke up from his dream, but even after sitting up and lifting the eye mask, he still didn't get the notification for a new badge. Strange, if it's not the badge, then what is it? Glancing at the pitch-black sky outside the window and the dim night lights inside the sky clipper, Leon couldn't help but frown slightly, starting to doubt whether he just heard things. However, ZZ. Leon followed the faint noise and saw the female cleaner's clothes on her chest strangely bulge a little. No, what does that mean? Your chest got something to say to me? Seemingly feeling the movement in front of her, the female cleaner, sleeping with a blanket over her and drooling, mumbled a few words, then, under Leon's speechless gaze, reached into her bosom, rummaged around, and took out a small, round-backed mirror. Uncle Grandpa? Rubbing her drowsy eyes and looking into the small mirror at the Aquarius director, the half-awake female cleaner asked with a dazed look, What's the matter? Why reach me so late? Melly, wake up! Surveying the female cleaner who was curled up on the chair, clearly a bit muddled from sleep, the Aquarius director in the mirror frowned, then seriously announced, There's a disturbance underground at Rihi City. Upon hearing the Aquarius director's words, Leon's eyes immediately narrowed, and the female cleaner's eyes widened suddenly, as she threw off the blanket and sat up swiftly, grabbing the small mirror to ask, Uncle Grandpa? What's happening underground in Rihi City? Are you in danger? What danger could I be in? Seeing his grandniece's anxious look, the Aquarius director in the mirror relaxed his expression slightly, and then replied in a warm tone. Although I'm old now, I'm still the director of the Zodiac branch office. What danger could possibly occur on my turf? Indeed, since Rihi City is within the protection range of the Aquarius Astropalace, there's not much below the Pillar God level that could threaten Uncle Grandpa if he's at full capacity. There doesn't seem to be much need for worry about his safety. After assessing the current situation, the female cleaner couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. But looking at the steam-filled underground river of Rihi displayed in the mirror and the slightly hunched back of the Aquarius director, she couldn't help worrying again. Uncle Grandpa, didn't Central Office notify that there's a molten path leading to the geocentric within our underground river in Rihi City? If the geocentric natives come through the stone. Wait a second. Leon interrupted the female cleaner and took the small mirror she was holding, turning it to face him directly, and then fixed his gaze on the Aquarius director within, squinting slightly as he said, "Director Baltro, this is Leon Lane." "Oh, I know you." Peering through the steam-covered mirror, examining Leon's features, the Aquarius director's figure, blurred by the thick steam rising from the underground river, smiled. "Melly's been pampered by her family since she was little, and my busyness leaves little time to teach her, making her helpless when seeing delicious food. Hehe. She must have caused you a lot of trouble these days, didn't she, Uncle Grandpa?" Not expecting the Aquarius director to spill her embarrassing secrets, the female cleaner blushed, then couldn't help but complain. "Don't talk nonsense. I'm very ladylike after I'm full." Hearing her words, the Aquarius director in the small mirror couldn't help but sigh, while Leon outside the mirror also couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. "Well, it's not a lie. After you're bursting with food, the calm bloodline does take the upper hand, and your demeanor is indeed very ladylike. However, given your monstrous appetite, how many times a year can you get full?" "Baltro, Your Excellency." Taking a couple of deep breaths to hold back from making a sarcastic comment, Leon looked at the small, steam-covered mirror and requested in a deep voice, "The steam over there is too dense for me to see your figure clearly. If possible, could you please wipe the mirror on your side?" Hearing Leon's request, the Aquarius director was slightly taken aback at first, but soon came to his senses and used his sleeve, dampened by the steam, to wipe the blurred mirror, apologizing with a slight hint of remorse. Before sharing such important information, confirming identity is definitely necessary. "I'm getting old and didn't think of it. Plus I see you very clearly from my side, so I didn't think to wipe it. My apologies." Even after wiping, the mirror was still a bit blurry, but it was far better than before where the figure was so vague it was barely recognizable as human. Through the female cleaner's small mirror, Leon examined the Aquarius director's attire and appearance closely. Finding no significant issues, he couldn't help but let go a bit of the doubt in his heart and nodded slightly in apology. "There's no need for apology. It's me who should apologize for being overly cautious earlier. No. Being cautious is a virtue." The Aquarius director in the small mirror seemed to highly appreciate Leon's actions, smiling and praising. "To be an excellent cleaner, talent isn't enough. You also need to learn to think a lot and act with utmost caution." Although little Melly has outstanding talent and reached the level of a level 3 cleaner by the age of just 5 or 6, she's significantly lacking in this aspect, so I've always been hesitant to let her take on missions. "Uncle Grandpa." All right, I'll stop. You've always been stubborn. Ever since you were little, you've been so stubborn. I told you not to eat scented candles. You insisted that since they smell sweet, they must taste sweet too. And then you forcefully unscrewed the candlestick, pulling out the candle inside. Stop talking. Huh? Can't mention that either. Of course not. Perhaps I've been overthinking. Have I? Watching the blue-haired old man in the mirror getting scolded by Melly for speaking indiscreetly, Leon's suspicions eased slightly. When the female cleaner got thoroughly upset and stopped speaking, pouting at the small mirror, temporarily putting aside his suspicion, Leon looked at the blue-haired old man in the mirror and directly prompted, "Baltro, Your Excellency." Shouldn't you be discussing the issue with the underground hot river? Oh, sorry. After growing old, one develops a fondness for reminiscing about the past. Laughing a bit awkwardly, the Aquarius director in the mirror took on a slightly solemn expression and continued. What I wanted to inform you about is actually pretty similar to what the central office wants to inform you. I've discovered that beneath Rihi City, within the hot river, a molten path leading to the geocentric is hidden, and it seems that the Slaughter King Association has discovered this path before us. They appear to be planning to use this molten path to reach the Stone Marrow realm located at the geocentric. What? After Aquarius director finished sharing his discovery, before Leon could ask any question, the female cleaner beside him couldn't help but exclaim, "How could that be? Stone Marrow realm was sealed. It's impossible to go there now, isn't it? It's sealed, not completely blocked off." In the little mirror, Aquarius director said helplessly. Moreover, even though Stone Marrow realm has been stripped away, it was originally part of the main plane. How could it be blocked off so easily? Sigh. I always thought the path from the Earth's core to Stone Marrow realm would be open sooner or later, but I didn't expect it to be so soon. It has only been a few years, and it's already unsustainable. But if that's the case, looking at the helpless expression of Aquarius director in the little mirror, the female cleaner pursed her lips tightly, her expression quite complex, saying, "If Stone Marrow realm cannot be blocked, then why did we even..." Seeing the drastically changed expressions of the pair in the mirror, Leon, who was completely confused, couldn't help but ask, "What is Stone Marrow realm? What's its relationship with the Earth's core? Can you explain it to me a little bit?" "Let me explain." Among the three deputy directors who were attentively listening, the short, middle-aged woman raised her hand and then explained complexly. "Back when we sealed the Earth's core, our Tianmao branch also sent 2 people, and we know a bit about the situation. Mr. Leon, Stone Marrow realm is one of the subsidiary planes of the current world. However, unlike planes like the realm of the dead or dream realm, which can be accessed automatically if conditions are met, Stone Marrow realm was self-sealed by the Earth 3 tribes living within it, and it can only be accessed through the Earth's core connected to Stone Marrow realm. Additionally, the existence of Stone Marrow realm is also different from the realm of the dead and dream realm. Stone Marrow realm was once a part of the Earth's core. Hence, it hasn't completely separated from the current world, but is more like a train carriage attached to the Earth's core by the Earth 3 tribes. The implication is that Stone Marrow realm was once part of the Earth's core, but later got cut off by the Earth 3 tribes, and they still prohibit humans from entering? So what are the Earth 3 tribes? It seems that after your explanation, I have even more to understand. Doesn't it? The Earth 3 tribes are one of the indigenous peoples of this world. Seeing Leon's confusion, the Aquarius director in the little mirror blinked and then explained. You should already know we humans were not the earliest arrivals in this world. Before we came, this world was already inhabited by several native races, among which the Earth 3 tribes are the 3 largest terrestrial species. Besides the Earth 3 tribes, there are also the Sea 3 clans and the 3 feathered tribes. After rounds of wars for survival space, humans emerged as the final victors and occupied the most favorable conditions on the surface, while the indigenous peoples of this world chose to voluntarily retreat. The Earth 3 tribes retreated into the Earth's core, the Sea 3 clans chose to sink into the sea eye, and the strongest feathered tribes actively flew high into the sky to occupy the cloud country closest to the sun. As the 3 largest indigenous forces, according to the agreement with the Cleanup Bureau, these 9 indigenous races were allowed to carve out a piece of the current world to create their own 3 small planes. The Earth 3 tribes first created the Stone Marrow realm and reconnected it to the Earth's core. The Sea 3 clans similarly took a portion of the Sea Eye to create the tidal realm, and the feathered tribes took a different path and didn't split away the cloud country, but instead set up the mirror sky court above, similarly closing it off and not allowing entry. Wow, listening to this, it seems like our human ancestors were quite something, forcing others to retreat into the sky and underground, unable to help but grumble in his heart. After roughly understanding the situation, Leon couldn't help but curiously ask, what happened afterward? Didn't they think of counterattacking? They tried several times, but it wasn't very successful. After all, the cleanup bureau was terribly strong back then, and after realizing there was no chance, they slowly accepted it. Upon hearing Leon's inquiry, the Aquarius director in the little mirror squinted slightly, then calmly narrated. After being forced to permanently leave the surface, the three feathered tribes lived the best, choosing to reconcile with humans first. Though they seldom come down from Cloud Country, they occasionally communicate with Refraction Kingdom and Thunderstorm Country. The C3 clans had a slightly worse situation, but since humans inherently cannot survive in the ocean, the deeper areas of the sea and far-off open sea areas were slowly handed over to the C3 clans, and their relations remained relatively harmonious. As for the remaining Earth 3 tribes, they lived in the worst environment. The Stone Marrow realm is unbearably monotonous and hot. Coupled with their hearts longing for the surface and sunlight, they often engaged in some quite intense actions, keeping their relationship with the cleanup bureau quite tense. At this point, the Aquarius director in the little mirror couldn't help but glance at the female cleaner beside him, then said somewhat vaguely, "About 10 years ago, the Earth 3 tribes selected more than 200 volcanoes across the entire surface, planning to blow them all up in one go, thoroughly clearing the way to move in and out of the Earth's core. This plan completely angered the cleanup bureau, so the on-duty Aquarius director gave an order. While requiring each branch to suppress the volcanoes, they gathered 2 directors and 4 Zodiac Bureau heads to delve into the Earth's core and directly sealed off the entrance to Stone Marrow Realm. So, were you one of the people that went down there that time? And because you went down to block Stone Marrow Realm, there was no Zodiac director stationed in the Aquarius branch. The female cleaner's mother sacrificed herself in suppressing the volcanoes within the territory on the mission." Gazing upon the female cleaner's somewhat gloomy expression and having guessed some of the past situation, Leon didn't ask further but instead consciously shifted the topic, saying, "Director Baltro, so the Slaughter King Association doesn't intend to directly attack the Northern Kingdom this time, but rather plans to go to the Earth's core through the lava passage beneath Rihi City, intending to unseal Stone Marrow Realm and release all the Earth 3 tribes? More or less." The Aquarius director in the mirror nodded, his expression quite grave, saying, "Aside from this, I can't think of any other reason for them to go to the Earth's core. So what can I do?" Looking at the tired expression of the old man, drenched with moisture, his blue hair sticking wetly on his forehead in the mirror, Leon couldn't help but respectfully ask, "Your Excellency Baltro, do you need me to go down to Rihi?" "No need." Upon hearing Leon's inquiry, the Aquarius director in the mirror smiled and then warmly said, "When you arrived, the directors must have promised you that, as long as you signal, they can activate the sundial at any time, providing you with a second of sunlight. Am I right?" "Yes. But this time the issue lies underground, and the sunlight intercepted by the sundial cannot directly reach there. Your strongest card is essentially half-wasted." Pointing out the sundial's problem, the director of the Aquarius branch seriously said, "Also, the people from the Slaughter King Association have entered the lava passage, heading into the Earth's core for a while now. Even if you go down now, you surely won't reach them in time. So it's more fitting for you to stay above ground and watch over the Aquarius branch for me. With you helping to oversee what's happening on the surface, I wouldn't have to worry about the Slaughter King Association diverting my attention and taking the opportunity to attack Rihi City. I can confidently continue pursuing downward. What do you think of this arrangement? I will guard the Aquarius branch to prevent the Slaughter King Association from using a diversion to attack Rihi City, while you continue the pursuit to stop them from unlocking the seal and releasing the Third Earth tribes from the Stone Marrow Realm." After pondering the suggestion from the Aquarius branch chief for a moment and not finding any obvious flaws, Leon quickly nodded in agreement. "I have no objections. Then let's arrange it this way first." Seeing how easily they reached a consensus with Leon, the Aquarius chief in the mirror couldn't help but smile. He then looked sympathetically at the silently standing female cleaner by his side, and took the initiative to bid farewell. "Then I'll be on my way. I'll leave the Aquarius branch to you. It's not a bother, it's what I should do." After a few words finalized the action plan and established their respective tasks, the small mirror's smooth surface wavered slightly. The mist that seemed to have seeped into it suddenly cleared, returning to its mirror-like brightness. Having finished the conversation, Leon looked at the small mirror reflecting the female cleaner's face, which was clearly overshadowed by an extremely low mood, and couldn't help but frown slightly. It's done. After observing Leon's face disappearing from the small mirror, the chief of the Aquarius branch flashed a satisfied smile. Suddenly, his slightly cloudy eyes became clear. The loose skin on his face gradually tightened. The dark age spots lightened, and his cheekbones and jawline slightly retracted. The once aggressive face quickly softened, and then was firmly covered by a white wolf head mask. Are you relieved now? Adjusting the wolf head mask so that it fit snugly on his face, Snow Wolf looked up at the raven-masked man opposite and said in a calm voice, I've already pacified that food god. He shouldn't be entering the underground passage. We can set off now. What's the matter? Seeing the still hesitant raven-masked man, Snow Wolf couldn't help but frown slightly before asking, Dongya, besides that food god, is there something else that concerns you? I'm worried. Pretending to be the Aquarius branch chief, can you really avoid being discovered? The raven-masked man expressed doubt. Although Leon hasn't been with the cleanup bureau for long, he's done quite a bit following the Scarlet Hair Lady and picked up on her suspicious nature entirely. He wouldn't let go of any doubtful points. Are you sure you haven't given yourself away? Dongya, are you overestimating him a bit? Seeing the raven-masked man still uneasy at this point, Snow Wolf spoke with slight dissatisfaction. I admit he is careful and cautious, even stopping the conversation just to question the fog on the mirror and confirm my identity before continuing the dialogue. But no matter how vigilant he is, he can't discover everything. Even the personal grandniece of the Aquarius branch chief didn't realize I was an imposter. How could an outsider who has never interacted with Baltro see through it? Indeed, listening to Snow Wolf's rebuttal, the raven-masked man couldn't help but nod subconsciously, feeling a little less anxious. From the perspective of an observer, Snow Wolf's performance was indeed flawless, and his portrayal of the Aquarius chief's personality could be considered outstanding. After noticing Leon's suspicion, he immediately cooperated by cleaning the mirror and casually mentioned 2 anecdotes from the female cleaner's childhood, gaining the other's trust and temporarily alleviating doubts. When unexpected situations arose, and the General Cleanup Bureau had already informed the food god about some of the situation, he seamlessly shifted the conversation, recounting the circumstances of the 3 Earth tribes during that time, capturing the character perfectly. At least I didn't notice any flaws. Rest assured, he can't do anything now. After waiting a while without hearing from the raven-masked man, Snow Wolf couldn't suppress his impatience and said, Even if Leon is frighteningly shrewd and detects something amiss, we've already entered the molten path, and we're not far from the Earth's core by now. Everything is set in motion. No matter how smart or ruthless he is, it will take time to catch up. By the time he does, we'll have finished everything and made our escape. You're right. After nodding in agreement, the raven-masked man finally escaped the influence of the authority of fear, regaining his composure upon hearing that Leon wouldn't catch up. However, once his mind returned, he vaguely felt something was off and couldn't help but scrutinize Snow Wolf before him, asking with a hint of confusion, Snow Wolf, how do you know? You too. Really made it hard to find you. A voice brimming with annoyance suddenly rang from behind them. The overwhelming anger in the tone made both of them flinch in fright. No way? He actually caught up? Turning back with eyes full of horror, and seeing the blue-haired old man with a grim face in pursuit, the raven-masked man exclaimed, Snow Wolf? Didn't you lead him away with an illusion? How did he still catch up? I tried my best. Glancing at the Aquarius chief behind them, eyes closed and ears covered, even with floral cloth stuffed in his nose, navigating purely by touch, Snow Wolf sighed and said with tightly knitted brows, The illusion and fake sounds I left behind indeed could momentarily affect what he sees and hears, but he shut off these senses and relied entirely on touch and intuition to find the way. What could I have done? Then think of something. As he instinctively started to run, seeing the blue-haired old man getting closer, Donya, while rushing desperately, urged anxiously. Hurry and think. You must have a plan. If he catches up, it's over. Honestly, when you chose your mask, did you mistakenly take the moon boars? Compared to a cold and sinister Donya, you seem more like a silly, screaming pig. Seeing his panicked companion, whose mental state crumbled upon Leon's arrival and lost a lot of time, which caused them to get chased by the Aquarius chief, Snow Wolf sighed again. He reached out and gestured, dividing the increasingly fiery path beneath into two, then pointed to the path on the left. Go up. You're safe if you go up. Ah, okay. Hearing Snow Wolf's words, the bewildered raven-masked man heaved a sigh of relief, quickly following the instructions, and then asked, Then what? What should I do next? Snow Wolf. Realizing something was wrong, Donya suddenly looked back and was shocked to find that Snow Wolf, who had been by his side, disappeared with a few gentle sways and reappeared far ahead. Even more terrifyingly, as Snow Wolf moved away, the molten path beneath Donya wavered, causing everything to spin dramatically. This seemingly new path leading to the Earth's core was actually spiraling upwards, and with his dual trajectory, the face of the Aquarius chief, twisted with rage and engulfed in flames of destruction, had already reached him. How dare you use illusions to fool me? Feeling certain elements moving away, with eyes tightly shut, the Aquarius chief angrily shouted into the distance. Don't run. I must get you. Ouch, what the heck? Still doesn't feel quite right. Although I'm unclear about the situation underground in Rihi City and haven't found anything unusual about the Aquarius director, looking at the female cleaner's slightly depressed mood, Leon instinctively feels that the recent conversation was somewhat strange. To be fair, as the uncle-grandfather who has raised the female cleaner, the Aquarius director would surely know that news about the 3 Earth tribes and the Stone Marrow world would likely remind the female cleaner of her mother's sacrifice back then. Given the affection he's shown before for the female cleaner, he would subconsciously try to reduce conversations on that topic, at most touching on the Slaughter King Association's goals to avoid linking it to past events, but the Aquarius director did not do this. Admittedly, the reason he spoke so much about the 3 Earth tribes and the Stone Marrow world might be for the benefit of me, the reinforcement, wanting to provide useful information and explain the reasons behind it for handling this mission. But looking at it from this angle, it contradicts his refusal to let me go down to support, only asking me to stay at the Aquarius branch to help defend Rihi City. After all, if he doesn't need my help, then I won't need to face the 3 Earth tribes and the Stone Marrow world, and thus the information is unnecessary. So, why would he specifically stop to explain for so long at this crucial moment of chasing the Slaughter King Association? Is it because he's lonely and wants to chat online? This Aquarius director doesn't seem real. Whether it's grandparent-grandchild emotion or task mentality, the Aquarius director's actions are odd, inevitably raising suspicion in Leon's heart, though he quickly shakes those thoughts away. Simply put, if the Aquarius director just now was fake, then why does he have the Aquarius director's mirror? And why would he know about the female cleaner's childhood? The incongruity in the Aquarius director's demeanor could be attributed to him being a compulsive chatterbox, but supposing he's a fake, there's no strong evidence to support that, so, Melly, calling out to the female cleaner, Leon squints slightly and says, Can you call him back? Huh? Call who? I mean, aside from Director Baltro contacting you first, can you contact him in reverse? I can, technically. The female cleaner blinks in response, then asks in some confusion, But didn't you all just finish talking? Did you forget to ask him something? Yes. Since it's just a guess for now, Leon doesn't rush to explain his thoughts and instead nods, saying, I do have some questions about the Aquarius branch that I need to consult Director Baltro about. Oh. After responding, the female cleaner rallies herself, takes out the small mirror again, and gently rubs the Aquarius emblem on the mirror's edge with her fingers. Strangely, although the Aquarius director had been talking to them just now, there's no response now. No matter how much the female cleaner calls, there is no movement. After waiting a long time without seeing any response, The female cleaner blinks in confusion and tries to contact again, while Leon, sitting beside her, sighs, realizing he may have guessed correctly. Although it's still unclear why the Aquarius director earlier had the Aquarius director's mirror or why he would know about the female cleaner's childhood. Since he's suddenly unreachable, there's at least an 80% chance he's an imposter. Stop! Waving his hand to stop the female cleaner from trying a third call, Leon turns to look at the three supporting deputy directors on the other side. That person just now likely wasn't the real Lord Baltro. Hearing Leon's words, the three deputy directors are shocked, while the female cleaner widens her eyes, filled with anxiety as she says, "Leon? Are you saying Uncle Grandfather, he?" Don't worry, Director Baltro, as the Yellow Road director, even if the Star Palace's blessing weakens underground, he isn't someone a couple of true gods could deal with easily. The chances of him being in danger are low. After comforting the female cleaner, Leon briefly explains the oddities and his line of reasoning, and then, with a serious face, he addresses the four who are half convinced. In summary, we now have reason to suspect Director Baltro has encountered some trouble, possibly detained or temporarily trapped, so we must prepare for the worst-case scenario. The worst-case scenario. The three deputy directors exchange looks before the cat deputy director carefully asks, "Lord Leon, do you mean?" Director Baltro couldn't stop the Slaughter King Association people from entering the Earth's core, breaking the Zodiac Bureau's decade-long seal on the Stone Marrow world, releasing all the three Earth tribes inside. They might reenact the attack from 10 years ago. At this point, Leon pauses, recalling the past sign given by the Aquarius director after ascending the palace, which detailed for large-scale disasters in the coming year. Ice Plains Nation Ashido, Hexagonal Mountains, Underground Rihi City, Scorching Spring Molten River, Liu Bei Ing River. The scenes I saw with the past sign far exceed the power limit of an average true god, possibly only caused by the release of the three Earth tribes from the Stone Marrow world, capable of melting the hexagonal snow mountain in one fell swoop, flooding the northern continent. We must take action immediately. After connecting the pieces of information and realizing the gravity of the situation, Leon says with a stern expression, "Once the airship lands, we should split into two groups. Whale Division's Director Hofer and Cheetah Division's Director Liak will remain at the Aquarius branch to fend off any attacks from the Slaughter King Association and protect the Northern Royal family members. Meanwhile, Director Misha and I will head immediately to Underground Rihi to try to thwart the Slaughter King Association's actions and rescue the possibly trapped Director Baltro. We can't rely on Director Baltro right now. It's up to us this time. SZZZ. As Leon urgently plans their actions, the female cleaner's clothes bulge slightly, and the small mirror falls out again. The Aquarius director's face appears unexpectedly in the mirror. "What's up?" Looking at the startled expressions in the mirror, the Aquarius director blinks in surprise and asks, "Is there something wrong? I was on the move just now and didn't hear anything happening." "What's going on? Can't you say something? Why are you all silent? This can't really be blamed on anyone. When you get older, your hearing worsens, and not hearing noise is quite normal." "Bullshit. You just refused to answer the phone earlier. I was already mobilizing. So why are you suddenly making noise now?" Looking at the Aquarius chief who suddenly appeared in the small mirror, Leon, who was completely taken aback, couldn't help but feel his face flush. Under the curious gazes of the other four, he braced himself and asked, "Lord Baltro, I had Melly contact you." "Ah, so what did you need from me?" "Originally there was something, but now there's not." After racking his brain to analyze a whole bunch, determining that the current situation was extremely critical, which in the end turned out to be just a misunderstanding, Leon only wanted to quickly end the conversation and pretend none of it ever happened. However, facing the questioning look of the Aquarius chief in the mirror, he really couldn't just hang up the phone. So he thickened his face and said, "Actually, it's nothing major. I just wanted to ask about the situation at the Aquarius branch and your current arrangements for it." "I see." Upon hearing this, the Aquarius chief frowned slightly, then said, "I'm busy traveling right now. You can just ask Melly about these matters." I don't keep things from her. Or you can find Hope once you're at the Aquarius branch, and he'll explain my arrangements to you. All right. After agreeing with a word, Leon, eager to end the call, didn't continue to ask questions. Instead, he nodded to remember the name, then before hanging up the phone, he nudged the female cleaner away from the mirror, inadvertently mentioning, "By the way, Lord Baltro, the gift you had Melly deliver to me was very nice. Veronica and I both liked it very much, but your gift is truly a bit too extravagant for me to accept." Hee hee. Upon hearing Leon's words, the blue-haired old man in the mirror couldn't help but chuckle, then kindly said, "As long as you both like it, whether it's extravagant or not doesn't matter. As long as we like it." Glancing at the blue-haired old man in the mirror who was cheerfully accepting, Leon couldn't help but slightly raise his eyebrows, and the Aquarius chief, who was watching him closely, keenly noticed this subtle change, then sighed helplessly. Dongya was right, you're really not easy to deal with. No longer making futile efforts, he wiped his face to remove the wrinkles, picked up a white wolf head mask to cover his true face, reverted to his hoarse voice, and with a complex look asked, "Mr. Leon, could you please tell me where exactly I slipped up and aroused your suspicion?" It really was a fake. Seeing that in the mirror the face of the Aquarius chief had changed to the face of another thin human, the three chiefs couldn't help but be shocked as one. And from the moment Leon mentioned the gift, the female cleaner, who had realized, clung onto Leon's arm and rushed back to the front of the mirror, anxiously questioning, "Who are you? Where is my granduncle? Why do you have his mirror? How about one question for another?" Seeing Leon in the small mirror, silent and seemingly unwilling to respond, the stranger couldn't help but smile, then said, "Mr. Leon, if you're willing to tell me where I slipped up, then I'll tell you the origin of this mirror. How about it? Interested? Trading information? Huh?" After thinking for a moment, Leon glanced at the female cleaner biting her lip but resisting interrupting him, then slightly nodded. "All right." After agreeing to the trade proposed by the stranger, Leon squinted his eyes and said, "Your disguise was actually very perfect. I was indeed fooled at first. But there are always things in this world that you can't disguise." "What things?" "Emotions, or you could say gaze." "Gaze? Is that what you told us earlier?" Hearing Leon's words, the three chiefs exchanged confused glances, having a round of eye contact communication. Didn't Sir Leon say earlier that the reason he suspected the Aquarius chief was an imposter was deduced from behavior? How did it turn into emotions and gaze now? After pushing the female cleaner away from the mirror, and during the information exchange with the adversary, where he never told the truth, Leon calmly continued his nonsense. When humans express emotions, most of it is done through the eyes. Previously, I had contact with the Aquarius branch's Baltro chief through this mirror. Melly was also beside us at that time, and your gaze towards Melly was different from his gaze. So it's the gaze that's the issue? After sensing Leon's answer through his illusion authority, and not finding any falsehood, the stranger nodded in satisfaction and said, "Very well, though it may not be the entire reason. I did not sense a taste of lie from it. It seems what you said is indeed true, and you didn't attempt to deceive me." "Oh?" Looking at the satisfied stranger in the mirror, the female cleaner, held down by Leon, was suddenly bewildered and looked at Leon full of confusion. "You told the truth this time? But wasn't the reason you gave us earlier fake? Also, when did you contact granduncle through this mirror? And I was beside you then? How did I not know about this? My head is so confused." If your head is confused, don't think about it, this isn't something you should do. Slightly turned the small mirror to avoid having the bewildered cleaner reflected. Leon gazed at the stranger in the mirror, calmly urging, "Of course it's only part of it, because if I said everything at once, what if you go back on your word? Don't worry. Even though I like disguises, I still value my credibility." The stranger in the little mirror smiled, then addressed the female cleaner who wasn't in the mirror. "Miss Melly, this mirror in my hand, just like the one in your hand, was specifically split from his own celestial globe mirror by Mr. Baltro of the Aquarius branch. for the purpose of staying in close contact with his family. No way. You're lying. Hearing the stranger's words, the female cleaner couldn't help but push Leon's hand away and shouted angrily at the mirror. This mirror can only be used by cleaners. My granduncle told me that only I have his counterpart mirror. That's now only you have it. Emphasizing the word now, the stranger first glanced at Leon, who had understood and couldn't help but furrow his brows, then lightly tapped the foggy small mirror with a fingertip and smiled at the female cleaner. The original owner of this counterpart mirror was your mother, and I personally picked it from her corpse back in those days. That is, my mother's mirror? Completely expecting to hear this answer, upon learning that the mirror in Snow Jackal's hand was actually her mother's relic, the female cleaner found her thoughts frozen, overwhelmed by a torrent of emotions. Beside her, Leon, who vaguely guessed some things, closed his eyes slightly and sighed inwardly. If he was not mistaken, the member of the Slaughter King Association in the mirror, wearing the white wolf head mask, probably had no interest in the so-called flaw and didn't care how its disguise got exposed. The real purpose behind proposing to exchange information might have been simply to reveal this fact and then revel in Melly's sorrowful expression after learning the truth, shattered by emotional shock. How vile. Glancing at Snow Jackal, who was satisfied and smiling in the small mirror, Leon reached out and patted the back of the bewildered female cleaner, guiding her back to her seat. He then stared intently at the masked figure in the mirror, memorizing its form and appearance. Mr. Leon, your gaze is a bit too earnest. After a moment of eye contact across the small mirror, Snow Jackal spoke with a smile. If you are angered by my attitude and plan to find and kill me, just remembering my appearance won't suffice. I am the god who governs illusions and Heart Lake. The face you see isn't my true appearance. Moreover, anger is not a beneficial emotion. The more the Heart Lake of those who face me surges with emotions, the easier it becomes for me to exploit, dragging them into illusions. Not even those with calm bloodline can escape. Upon hearing this, Leon's pupils narrowed slightly, and he swiftly reached out, grabbing the female cleaner's arm. However, before that, the dazed cleaner had already opened her lips slightly, gently exhaling towards Leon and the others. Ha! With the cleaner's action, a colorless aroma resembling that of bluebells immediately spread from her mouth, filling the enclosed cabin of the Sky Clipper in less than a blink of an eye. Immediately after, the tree root-like accessory on her wrist abruptly swelled up, forcibly prying open Leon's grasp and transforming into a massive tree sphere, encapsulating her completely. The brown tree sphere's exterior suddenly burst open with a multitude of tiny white flowers, scattering pollen all around. When Leon raised his hand to shield himself, a familiar noise rang in his ears. ZZZZ. Name: Mysterious Princess's Pollen. Silence. Flesh. Vision. Appearance: extremely tiny colorless particles, small enough to permeate the skin, appearing semi-transparent under sunlight, and almost invisible to the naked eye at night. Abilities: silence, physical stagnation, vision obscuration. Cost: consumes significant physical energy but can be quickly replenished through substantial food intake. File: the unique plant Mysterious Princess, found in Dream Realm Lone Walker Mountain, disperses a large amount of colorless pollen upon blooming, which can inhibit sound transmission and forcibly slow down the actions of all fleshly beings. Additionally, the pollen of the Mysterious Princess carries mild toxicity, and excessive short-term exposure can affect the visual nervous system, causing temporary blindness. Evaluation: a rather insidious control-type abnormal object, which, upon contact, immediately seals one's mouth, deafens the ears, paralyzes movement, and blinds the vision. When used in conjunction with the equally concealed calming saliva, it's nearly unbeatable for ambushes or deceitful attacks. Contamination value: 0.1. The so-called food god of the cleanup bureau isn't that hard to deal with. Seeing Leon covered with the Mysterious Princess's pollen, having been hit perfectly by the calming saliva and unable to dodge the follow-up attack, Snow Jackal in the mirror couldn't help but curl the corners of its mouth, then softly called to the tree sphere encapsulating the female cleaner. Creak! Along with the sound of thick tree roots scraping against each other, the tree sphere enclosing the female cleaner slowly unfolded, revealing her with eyes that had lost focus. Next, the cleaner twisted her wrist, pulling out a small harp from somewhere, and under Snow Jackal's manipulation, started winding the harp strings towards Leon's neck. Open your mouth! In Snow Jackal's suddenly constricted pupils, Leon, who should have been immobilized, suddenly turned his head, dodging the approaching harp strings. He promptly reached out, grabbed the female cleaner's cheek, and stuffed a piece of old clothing into her mouth, blocking it securely. Immediately afterwards, a silver knife appeared in Leon's hand, slicing off the nearby porthole, allowing a rush of cold air mixed with fine snow to flood into the cabin, sweeping away the calming saliva from inside the sky clipper. The god of illusions and Heart Lake, is it? Surviving this attempted ambush thanks to the resistance provided by materialism. Leon, feeling the souls of the three directors restore their vitality, took a sigh of relief and stared coldly at Snow Jackal in the mirror, squinting slightly. Wait for it, I'm coming soon. However, just as he was halfway through his harsh words, due to the calming saliva in the surroundings being dispersed by the cold air, the three directors, previously unable to speak, hear, move, or see, reacted all at once, deploying their life-saving means. Fragmented transport, vaporized dissociation, phased exit. Before Leon could even react, the three directors that the director of Taurus carefully selected for him each displayed their powers, disappearing from the sky clipper in an instant. One transformed from a middle-aged woman into 8 children, all of whom vanished with a pop. Another instantly lost its human form, turning into a large mass of white steam and gushing out through the broken porthole. The last one simply phased out, covered all over with light purple, odd balloon-like structures, slipping through the fine mesh of the sky clipper's body just like sand through a sieve, gradually descending into the blanket of white snow. What? Why are you all running at a time like this? Facing this unforeseen situation, originally intending to hurl a few harsh words at Snow Jackal, Leon found himself at a loss, the corners of his mouth twitching. He quickly clamped the still struggling female cleaner between his arms, squinted through the wind and snow, and peered out the porthole. The 8 children transformed by the middle-aged woman disappeared completely, their whereabouts unknown. The mass of white steam, though miraculously non-crystallized when chilled, vanished amidst the swirling snow. As for the last one that sprinkled down, even in the face of an airship that could speed 6 or 70 meters a second, it had been left far behind, its sole's position indicating it was probably already racing toward the hexagonal snow mountain. Well, we haven't even reached the northern border yet, and the rations we brought are already scattered in the mountains. Wake up! Wake up quickly! We've arrived! Slap! 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 Ah! Awakened by the slight pain on her face, the female cleaner instinctively opened her eyes wide and sat up abruptly. I am. You were controlled by that fake Aquarius director. Not in the mood to mock her overly standard awakening lines, after briefly explaining the situation, Leon immediately urged with a stern expression. Quick! Get yourself together. There should be a problem on your uncle's side. We must act immediately. Ah! Pushed by Leon to leave the seat, she walked half-crouched down the exit passage in a daze. As the cold wind from outside the sky clipper brushed her face, the female cleaner shivered and her mind finally cleared. Wait, are you saying those 3 were left on the snow mountain? Yes. Hearing the female cleaner's shocked inquiry, Leon's face turned grim as he nodded. Don't worry, although they can't resist the authority of a true god, they are at least deputy directors of the cleanup bureau and have the level of elite level 1 cleaners even without the protection of the Star Palace. Even if they fall into a snow mountain, they won't die. It's not. I'm not worried about that. The female cleaner couldn't help but stomp her foot, then anxiously said, If they fell off, wouldn't it just be you and me now? Members of the Slaughter King Association are all true gods. Without those 3, with just you and me, it's fine whether they're here or not, it doesn't make much difference. Since the matter of transporting food wasn't something appealing to disclose, the issue of food hadn't been mentioned to the female cleaner along the way. After glancing at the female cleaner's soul strength and estimating her food value, Leon shook his head slightly, then said, "Let's go. Take me to your Aquarius branch first. Then we'll head down to Rihi to find your uncle." Right? There's still everyone at the branch. Not knowing Leon was planning to have a meal, upon hearing what he said, the female cleaner felt a slight relief and then grabbed Leon's hand, quickly running out while explaining as she ran. "We have about the same number of level 1 cleaners in our Aquarius branch as in your Virgin branch. Currently there are 3. However, when it comes to facing true gods, only Uncle Hope is an elite level 1 cleaner who can help, while Sister Melina and Grandpa Hamilton are just ordinary level 1 cleaner level. 1 elite level 1 and 2 ordinary level 1s. After hearing the female cleaner's explanation, Leon nodded slightly. An elite level 1 cleaner like Senior Tom and Senior Emma would have a maximum contamination value of over 50 points. With 2 more ordinary level 1s with a contamination value over 30 points, plus his 36 points, it was enough to elevate himself to true god level, and possibly push beyond 60 points with some effort. Basically sufficient. After giving a fairly satisfactory evaluation of the standby food, Leon considered the cleaner's endurance can't compare to a true god, so for safety, he asked, "What about level 2? How many experienced level 2 cleaners with a Leon value between 20 to 30 points do you have?" "Level 2? You want to take level 2 cleaners to fight the true gods of the Slaughter King Association?" The female cleaner was taken aback, stopping in her tracks, and stammered, "We do have some experienced level 2s, about 12 or 13, but the opponents this time are true gods. Their abilities, no matter how special, are hard to make use of. Right? Don't worry. They will definitely be useful." Hearing there were 12 or 13 level 2 cleaners with a contamination value over 20 points, Leon couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. 2 at 30 points, 1 at 50 points, plus 13 at 20. Averaging it to 25 points, that's 3 to 400 total contamination value. With so much contamination value, even if it can't match the nearly endless endurance of a true god, it would be enough to sustain several rounds for himself. "Quickly lead the way. We'll head down to Rihi once we're prepared. But don't worry, I only need their help. They won't face the true gods directly. After all, there's a layer of stomach lining in between, so it's not considered facing the true gods directly." "All right then. We'll do as you say." Seeing that Leon didn't seem to be lying, the female cleaner stomped her foot and then pulled him running out of the Sky Clipper, pushing away the guards trying to ask questions, and charged into the swirling snow. So this is Rihi City? Dragged by the female cleaner through the docking corridor of Northern Kingdom's boarding tower, they arrived at a platform built in the Snow Mountain Saddle. Even though the situation was quite urgent, seeing the majestic city built from black rocks standing on the leeward side of the Snow Mountain in the distance, Leon couldn't help but slow down, gazing in awe at Rihi City. Compared to the more delicate and ornate style of the royal capital, the architecture of the Northern Kingdom was much more rugged. Although lacking luxurious carvings and intricate patterns, both the overall scale and building form were exceedingly grand. And with Leon's eyesight, even amidst the swirling snow, he could vaguely see the shape of most of the city. Near almost every large gathering area stood massive pipeline furnaces made of dark purple metal, several floors tall, continuously spewing blazing white smoke without pause in the blizzard. Starting from these furnaces, numerous visible thick pipelines formed a dense and complex network, like the city's arteries, connecting to almost every building. Looking closer, one could also find that most of these buildings with black outer walls were adorned with various huge beast horns and leather decorations with totem patterns. Things related to beasts were ubiquitous. Even at the city center's massive square stood a statue of a bearded man in a wolf-headed hood, carved riding on a mighty, tall wolf, with his wild, spirited face lifted as he gazed at the towering, majestic snowy mountains ahead. And beneath the swirling snow, both the black statue and the black buildings were covered with a thick layer of white snow, as if draped in a silver cloak, merging with the snowy mountains in the background. appearing solemnly majestic and even having a touch of sanctity. It's a bit rough, but truly magnificent, gazing at this wild yet dignified, rugged yet solemn grand city. Leon couldn't help but sigh inwardly, and then followed the tug of the female cleaner, quickly running to the platform edge of the Snow Mountain saddle, leaping towards the distant black and white giant city. Just as the two of them jumped, Leon watched as the female cleaner's clothes tore open, and a pair of massive wings, nearly 4 meters in span, emerged from her back out of nowhere. After tumbling a couple of times amidst the swirling snow, she quickly steadied herself and transformed into a giant snow goose, swooping down to catch Leon falling below her, then flying towards the direction of the Aquarius branch. This bird is really fat. Standing by the balcony of the royal palace, overlooking the garden where giant snow chickens pecked at grains, the blue-haired youth with a firm and heroic countenance couldn't help but curl his lips with satisfaction. When Melly first caught these snow chickens from the hexagonal snow mountain and insisted on keeping them in the garden, he found the pets she chose to be quite annoying, wishing he could throw out all these fat chickens that clucked all day. But recently, when she was away on a mission, he had the cook catch 2 and stew them, and found that Melly's eye was indeed keen. The flavor of these fat chickens she brought back was extraordinarily good. Thinking of the rich flavor of those 2 pots of stewed chicken, the current king of the Northern Kingdom, Harvey, couldn't help but slightly move his throat, subconsciously swallowing a little. And upon hearing the strange noise coming from the blue-haired young man, who stood with his back turned towards him, a newly arrived dressed elder at the door immediately broke out in a sweat on his forehead. His Majesty Harvey had previously given him a stern order to find the source of the underground river anomaly. If he couldn't, he would be dealt with. Considering His Majesty Harvey's methods, which were no less intense than the old king's, his dealing with was definitely not just a bluff. The best outcome for him, as the chief minister of the pipeline department, was resignation due to culpability. At worst, he might be strangled for dereliction of duty. However, even after taking people to crawl down the pipeline furnace and soaking in the underground river of the shallow stratum for a week, they hadn't found a single clue. That damned underground river was still swelling daily, seemingly on the brink of flooding back into the city through the pipeline furnace. Yet, at this critical moment, His Majesty Harvey suddenly had someone summon him, then stood on the balcony with his back turned, gazing past him at the steaming pipeline furnace within the royal palace. His intentions were unsaid but clear. "Your Majesty." Understanding that he would have to face the consequences regardless, the dressed elder, whose legs couldn't stop shaking, stumbled a few steps forward into the room and took the initiative to admit his fault in anguish. "Your Majesty, I have failed your trust." Upon hearing the mournful cry of the dressed elder, the blue-haired young man on the balcony, who was watching the chickens, was slightly startled, then reluctantly drew his gaze away from the plump snow chickens, turned around and smiled. "Sir Isaac, you're exaggerating." "I'm exaggerating? What does 'you're exaggerating' mean? Does it mean this matter doesn't qualify as failing the trust? Or, am I just not worthy of that trust?" With a heart full of unease, he looked up at the blue-haired young man, whose gaze was more aggressive than before, craving chicken, and his face turned pale in an instant. This is it. He's speaking in opposites. "Your Majesty." This old servant truly tried to investigate. For this young yet exceptionally shrewd majesty, recalling the fates of those who failed their duties and lied in the past, the dressed elder dared not deceive, raising his water-soaked pale hands in a pleading tone. "Your Majesty, this old servant has been in the underground river these past few days, getting less than 3 hours of sleep a day, having searched almost every place possible, though I couldn't find the reason for the rising underground river. But you've done your best, and according to the old man's saying, this matter involves the cleanup bureau's enemies. It's not something an ordinary person like you can figure out. Must you be this scared? Am I such an unreasonable person?" Seeing the dressed elder rendered incoherent by fear of his attitude, the blue-haired youth couldn't help but let out an awkward cough. Then, while reflecting on whether he's too harsh on his officials normally, he walked over to help him up, forcing out a smile of encouragement. "Sir Isaac, you've misunderstood. I have no intention of blaming you. You have no intention of blaming me. Could it be you've decided it's no longer necessary? Hearing the comfort from the cold-blooded Harvey the Majesty. Facing the blue-haired youth, whose smile didn't reach his eyes, the dressed elder not only didn't relax, but even grew even paler. The style of this Northern Kingdom king was tougher than the storms of the northern ice plains and harsher than the glaciers of the hexagonal snow mountain. Although he was generous with rewards for capable subordinates, he was equally ruthless when punishing the incompetent or erring ones. And even for minor mistakes, he would call people to reprimand them. Yet facing such a situation severe enough to bring disaster to the entire Rihi city, he unexpectedly comforted him this time, indicating it wasn't his fault. How is that possible? The prerequisite for such an occurrence, either I've gone mad or he has... No, he's gone mad already. He must be driven insane with rage already. Although this series of speculations seemed logically flawed on careful thought, tension and fear had utterly filled his mind, leading the wildly churning heart of the dressed elder to bizarrely disregard all the implausibility and have directly drawn this final conclusion. I'm doomed. Sir Isaac, this matter is beyond your capability. You indeed can't do it. Failing twice to lift the trembling dressed elder from the carpet, reminiscent of a sieve shaking, the blue-haired youth couldn't help but frown in confusion, then gave up supporting him, stood up, and explained. The situation with the underground river is somewhat special. I've already found others specialized in handling these kinds of things to take care of it. You just need to wait. Meanwhile, thinking about how to handle it if the pipeline furnace really gets blown out. You are dismissed. Seeing the bewildering expression of the terrified dressed elder, the always cold and stern blue-haired youth uncharacteristically showed rare gentleness. Yet, with blood steaming in his mind, making him feel dizzy, and his ears ringing constantly, the auditory world of the dressed elder became bizarrely warped, picking up only snippets of the blue-haired youth's words. Isaac, you can't do. Find other people, wait, think, go. Why? Clenching his teeth while crawling on the ground, the dressed elder then raised his head, gave a glance at the blue-haired man who coldly announced his execution, and suddenly yelled, diving straight at him. In the blue-haired young man's astonished eyes, the dressed elder's two withered hands, pale from being soaked in water vapor, suddenly burst with an unimaginably incredible strength, grasping at his neck with such force that his fingernails dug into the skin of his nape. To let me die. Then you'll die along with me. Bewildered by this sudden turn of events, and struggling to breathe, the blue-haired youth instinctively tried prying the hands gripping his throat, while bulging his eyes wide open in a strenuous attempt to inquire. You, Mel? Who said you'd die? Yet, strangely, within the dressed elder's eyes, even as he gripped the neck tightly, the blue-haired young man remained glaring in a ghastly manner, and venomously vowed to have his entire family hanged. Then I'll kill you first. As the dressed elder exerted more force in his grip, the garden of the balcony below echoed a mixture of panic and fury. A flock of snow chickens, moments ago peacefully pecking at grains, suddenly engaged in exceptionally fierce fighting. And those fat chickens, with eyes empty and unfocused, seemingly unable to even locate opponents, yet with beaks and claws tearing relentlessly, sending feathers flying, blood splattering, and combs rupturing, appeared with the exact insanity as the frenzied dressed elder. Has it already begun? Through its own authority, after sensing countless fiercely surging heart lakes, the snow fox heading toward the Earth's core couldn't help but let out a satisfied chuckle and completely put its mind at ease. Although that food god from the cleanup bureau indeed looked a bit sinister, even after being sprayed solidly by the bloodline of tranquility, it still managed to forcefully act under the authority of tranquility, which did give it a scare. However, as a false illusion and heart lake god, it was different from those fools it had met in the past. Those foolish and arrogant so-called true gods were merely crudely wielding their authority, and such clumsy and simplistic operations, akin to holding a bomb and hitting people with its shell, completely wasted their true strengths, putting themselves in danger. Those idiots seeing the true god's authority as weapons and engaging in direct battles with the cleanup bureau's cleaners was, in essence, a foolish act. Once their authority didn't work, getting resisted or even countered by this food god, naturally, they'd suffer a great loss. The correct usage of True God's authority should be like its own, where there's not even a need to show up, simply relying on the unparalleled influence range of True God's authority to exert influence from a distance where the opponent can't fight back. Such as now. Feeling the heart lakes in Rihi City above, one after another starting to surge madly, and through those agitated heart lakes, a massive power constantly coming to itself. The snow fox felt thoroughly delighted and couldn't help but close its eyes in delight. Human emotions are really exceptionally useful things. A mere insignificant contact, plus some superficial verbal provocation, could ignite a blazing fire in their heart lakes, burning away all their reason and thoughts. And before entering the underground Rihi, when wandering through that black and white Rihi city with Dongya, it came into contact with at least hundreds of creatures, leaving the seeds of false illusion in their heart lakes. Those creatures with seeds planted, as long as they couldn't maintain the peace of their souls, would have their heart lakes invaded by its seeds, taking root completely. Whether it's joy or sorrow, laughter or anger, all their intense emotions would become nutrients for the seeds to grow. Once its seeds, nurtured by the heart lakes, begin to sprout branches, the false illusion world it wants them to see would gradually replace the original real world, becoming the only and undeniable reality. When the false illusion successfully replaces the real, the false world they see would then evoke even greater waves in their heart lakes, until emotions catch fire through the seed's crimson flame flowers, refining these lowly, dull creatures into exquisite puppets faithful only to itself. As these puppets are purified, the flames in their heart lakes would become new seeds, and with body contact and emotional immersion, the stirring flames would spread to more souls, beginning to multiply rapidly. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, feeling the flames of heart lakes already leaping in tens of thousands of hearts, with numbers advancing toward the million mark, and its own authority showcased. The snow fox couldn't help but let out a long breath of comfort, then turned to glance at its path. Almost there. It's almost there. As the largest city in the Northern Kingdom and even the entire northern part of the continent, Rihi City had a permanent population of over 16 million. And in this season when blizzards sweep and travel is difficult, there were nearly 20 million humans in Rihi City right now, along with a vast amount of beasts, insects, and birds, and parts of the hexagonal snow mountain neighboring Rihi City. The total number of living beings above could probably approach 1 billion. As long as it could plant its seeds in the heart lakes of these billions of creatures. No, even if only half of them, and replace their reality with its created false illusion, its power would leap, gaining the ability to directly contend with the Yellow Road Director. And with the current speed of seed dispersion, it only needs less than a day to achieve this goal. Moreover, the only one capable of stopping all of this, the Aquarius Director, was currently chasing behind it, completely unaware of what was happening above ground, and the others were completely helpless, leaving it only a bit short of complete success. As for that strange food god, no matter how unique, against the absolute power-crushing force, is essentially worthless. Well, hard to say. Thinking of Leon's encounters with the Slaughter King Association, as well as other members who inexplicably fell into Leon's hands, the formerly confident Snow Fox couldn't help but waver. Based on its understanding, apart from the Aquarius Director who won against that food god once, successfully replacing the Cleanup Bureau's Taurus to complete the throne, there seems to be no one else who could laugh last in front of that Leon. Even several times thought to be highly predictable successful operations were easily resolved by him. The Xue Xiao and Black Owl siblings were also turned and defected by him, and Dongya almost lost its life because of him. Now, at the mention of Leon, it shivers. So, caution is still needed. Even if it can't directly get rid of him, it needs to find some ways to limit his actions, preventing this troublesome guy from messing up its plans. Recalling the brief contact with Leon, the Snow Fox's previously relaxed brow couldn't help but slightly furrow. Then it stopped in its tracks, turning to look at the position where the massive heart lake was leaking behind. The director of the Cleanup Bureau Aquarius branch, after having its heart lake broken by the illusion planted by itself and quickly realizing, blocking the senses to exempt the intrusion of illusions, effectively lost 3 of its 5 senses too. Currently, he was chasing Dongya, led by that fool running aimlessly, should not catch up anytime soon, conveniently leaving it a bit of time for operation. Finding a relatively stable gap, briefly detaching from the lava channel rushing to the core, the snow fox closed its eyes, sensing myriad chaotic burning heart lakes above, and soon found a fiercely burning flame near Leon's calm and peaceful heart lake. It's you. Ha! So cold. Even with a level 1 cleaner level body, already having some cold and heat-resistant capability, upon snowflakes melting at the neck and seeping into the collar, Leon, brushing off residual snow outside the Aquarius branch, couldn't help but shiver. Uncle Hope! Unlike Leon, who still maintained his calm, the female cleaner, full of worry, had no time to look after herself, rushing into a thick felt tent under the black stone beam, with melting snowflakes still on her head. Quick! Quickly get everyone. Something big is happening. As the Zodiac Bureau Director's grandniece, a child who grew up in the Aquarius branch, the female cleaner obviously had a bit of a team pet nature. With her anxious shout, the cleaners still remaining in the Aquarius branch immediately left their rooms and gathered in the largest central tent, which was the Zodiac Bureau Director's office. Uncle Grandpa, the director should have been held up by the Slaughter King Association people. Now that member of the Slaughter King Association wearing the wolf's head mask is heading through the molten path to the Earth's core, preparing to break the Bureau's blockade on the Stone Marrow world. After explaining the current situation as briefly as possible to the cleaners of the Aquarius branch, the female cleaner looked towards a middle-aged man wearing a fur hat, his figure straight, and spoke anxiously. Uncle Hope, we need to go down immediately. If the Slaughter King Association people successfully destroy the blockade and release the 3 clans in the Stone Marrow world, the Uncle Grandpa who went after them might be in danger. Melly, calm down first. Observing the silently counting Leon beside him, the middle-aged man named Hope slightly furrowed his brows, then adjusted his leather hat and spoke with thoughtful analysis. According to your statement, it seems the director and the members of the Slaughter King Association just set foot on the molten path not long ago. But the director went down to the underground river a week ago, and the underground river in Rihi City has been madly surging and emitting excessive steam since more than half a month ago. If the anomaly of the underground river is a sign that the molten path to the Earth's core has been opened, it means the molten path has been open for over half a month. Yet the Slaughter King Association members didn't go down earlier or later, but just when the director began investigating the underground river, they entered the molten path with great fanfare, were discovered by the director, and then were pursued all the way down. Don't you think it's a bit too coincidental? In this light, it does seem a bit strange. Thinking along the lines of the middle-aged man, Leon, waiting for the meal to be served, involuntarily raised his eyebrows and looked at him with some surprise. This middle-aged man with a mature and steady demeanor seemed to possess not only elite level 1 cleaner skills, but also had an exceptionally strong analytical ability. After listening to the female cleaner's disordered account, he, only after a moment's thought, found such a critical point. The underground river anomaly in Rihi City had existed for a while, yet the Slaughter King Association happened to enter the molten path, was happened upon by the director going down the river, and was happened to be chased all the way to a place far from Rihi City. The 3 happenings together clearly smelled strongly of a luring the tiger out of the mountain strategy. Upon realizing, through Hope's reminder, that the Slaughter King Association might have other plans, Leon couldn't help but furrow his brow. It was guessed that when the director realized this, he might have hesitated, but since the molten path in the river led to the Earth's core, if he dared to let it go, the 3 clans in Stone Marrow world might indeed be released by the Slaughter King Association. And initially, the Cleanup Bureau deployed 2 directors and 4 Zodiac Bureau directors to barely seal Stone Marrow world. If the 3 clans were released now, the currently very stretched Cleanup Bureau wouldn't have the manpower to secure them again. In other words, this was a kind of open conspiracy, betting that the director wouldn't dare not pursue. Upon careful thought, such dilemmas might never be in short supply, for although the Cleanup Bureau was strong, the territory it had to guard was immensely vast, and there was never enough manpower. All 87 branches of the Cleanup Bureau combined had only a few thousand cleaners, and these few thousand, most with some psychological issues, had to guard a huge planet with a surface area of hundreds of millions of square kilometers and a population of at least 20 or 30 billion. It would be a miracle if nothing went wrong. and the certain Union X with tens of thousands of employees couldn't even get a grip on one Earth. Expecting these few thousand madmen to keep the secular world, with barely a few telephones, secure amid the wild harassment of a bunch of aliens, was really too much to expect. Shaking his head somewhat helplessly, Leon looked at the seemingly very smart middle-aged man, ready to take advantage of the time before the rest of the Aquarius branch people arrived to listen more to his judgment to see if he could gain more insights. However, at this moment, the middle-aged man looked over first, frowning tightly, and asked, "What exactly do you want to do?" Question mark. "I can tell. You've been waiting for everyone to gather." Adjusting the fur hat that kept sliding down, Hope, with his eagle-sharp eyes, stared hard at Leon, cautiously continuing. "But the level 1 cleaners who can help when facing the true God are already here, and at such a critical time you didn't immediately propose leading us down but are waiting for those level 2 and 3 cleaners. What are you planning?" "Of course, I plan to eat as many as possible to ensure I have enough stamina in case of a protracted battle. Did I make it so obvious?" "Uncle Hope, Leon is sent by the main bureau to support us." Seeing the middle-aged man, not knowing why, suddenly targeting Leon aggressively, the female cleaner quickly explained. "We were attacked on the Sky Clipper, and the other 3 branch directors who came to support were thrown onto the hexagonal snow mountain, so Leon plans to take some level 2 cleaners down as well." "He's deceiving you, or not telling you the whole plan." Glancing sideways at the female cleaner, the middle-aged man pulled her a bit behind him, then stared at Leon with full alertness, saying, "Haven't you noticed? He hasn't said a word to us until now." "Ah, even if the people he plans to take aren't all here, he could still give us a rundown of known information or take this time to inquire about our skills. Why hasn't he done these things?" After giving reasons he found suspicious, seeing the still somewhat bewildered female cleaner, the middle-aged man had to continue explaining. "He hasn't spoken because he probably feels it's unnecessary. What he wants isn't us helping him at all." Success, concealed in Hope's stirring heart lake, noticing that under his hints and provocation, the cleaners, who had vaguely encircled Leon in the center, were full of vigilance, the corners of the snow-cracked mask under which his mouth unconsciously curved with delight. Even though the distance was too far for him to completely control this elite level 1 cleaner, just giving his heart like a slight nudge was enough to make him think all discoveries were his own, which sufficed to stir emotions. As for all the earlier he deceived you. Not speaking because it's unnecessary. They were naturally pure nonsense, merely to mess things up so that the food god couldn't defend himself, making actions tense, hence stirring the heart lakes of other cleaners, letting him, "I never imagined there'd be someone this incredibly smart in the Aquarius branch." Looking at the middle-aged man whose fur hat slid down to reveal a shiny bald head, Leon, full of admiration, nodded in acknowledgement. "I indeed didn't tell Melly the truth, and the reason I didn't converse with you before was truly that I thought it unnecessary. Your guesses are entirely correct. I need to consume all of you." "Ah, what the hell? Say that again, what are you trying to do?" Faced with Leon's cannibalistic declaration, not only did the minds of the cleaners go blank, but even Shuabai, far underground, couldn't help but open his mouth in surprise. "No, the so-called conjectures just now were all me presetting a stance and then forcing it based on your performance. The things I casually made up, how could you even admit to them?" "I knew it. Get him." Seeing that Leon actually directly admitted his judgment, the middle-aged man, temporarily the first wise man of the Aquarius branch, could not help but shout fiercely and prepared to leap forward. And with his shout, those Aquarius branch cleaners who were originally hesitant suddenly took out their main battle abnormal objects, ready to employ their techniques. Some transformed into beasts and roared at the sky. Some cut their wrists for long-distance curses. Some had strange runes emerge from their bodies and silently drifted into the ground. Some stripped off their clothes, revealing densely packed eyes on their chest, coldly staring over. Honestly, the level seems quite decent. After giving a good evaluation of the average quality of the Aquarius branch cleaners, Leon silently switched out to the Arcane Inheritor, Sagittarius, and then, under the confused gazes of the Aquarius branch cleaners, raised his hand and gave a light clap. Buzz! As the invisible wave spread out with the clapping sound, the cleaners of the Aquarius branch were extremely shocked to find that their main battle abnormal objects started twisting uncontrollably. No matter the original shape of these abnormal objects, whether flesh creations or wooden, stone, mechanical constructs, all began to blacken and swell, growing into masses of writhing, tangled flesh, subsequently emerging with 3 hideous black dog heads. Following the shooter board's teachings on the activation method of the abnormal enhancement technique from the Sagittarius Palace, Leon actively opened himself, linking to all surrounding abnormal objects, and collectively gave them an abnormal enhancement. All abnormal objects around with a contamination value lower than Leon were simultaneously polluted by the entity named Leon, losing their original self, forcefully polluted into 3-headed hellhounds, and, in the terrified eyes of the cleaners, roared and tore towards their original owners. No! Help! Save me! Throw it away! Drop what's in your hand! Ah! The pouncing and biting of those ferocious hellhounds, although causing no physical harm to the cleaners, seemed to drag away something more crucial from them, growing rapidly with feeding. Merely 2 to 3 breaths later, apart from the middle-aged man held back by a female cleaner with tree roots and did not rush over in the first instance, all cleaners of the Aquarius branch had been entirely knocked down by the black dogs. Not bad. That trip to the Sagittarius Palace wasn't in vain. Watching the cleaners who instantaneously lost their abnormal objects and were subdued by the swelling 3-headed black dogs, Leon couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. During my participation in the 5 Palaces selection, although I didn't learn the abnormal enhancement technique of the Sagittarius Palace, it wasn't a complete bust. Especially after being influenced by the meal aroma of "sis, I don't want to work hard," my self-contamination value surpassed the first level, so abnormal objects with a value below 36. Once they came close to the range of the shooter's secret skill, they were pure cannon fodder, utterly without resistance. Considering this time the fodder struggled quite intensely, I'll need to exert a little more strength. Glancing at the 2 bites that temporarily resisted and fought against the 3-headed black dogs, Leon apologetically nodded at them, then pulled out the thorn-covered hand of Screams, helping their fear-filled eyes to wear it and made them shake hands. Ah! Accompanied by the screams piercing the soul, the 2 cleaners who were still stubbornly resisting were instantly knocked down by the black dogs, and as the soul power of a group of cleaners was absorbed, the 3-headed black dogs formed from abnormal objects started swelling rapidly. Among them, the 2 dogs with the fastest growing figures even combined into one head, directly lifted the terrified screaming cleaner under them with a snap of their neck, swallowed whole, then joyfully returned to Leon's side, merging into his body like returning home. What kind of ghostly thing is this? Looking at Leon, who relied on the shooter secret skill, Leon Limited Edition Eerie and Horrific Pollution Effect, easily wiping out the entire Aquarius branch, whether it was the female cleaner who trapped the middle-aged man or the middle-aged man bound by tree roots, they had both lost their ability to think. Although if the director of the Aquarius branch arrived, they could also accomplish the feat of wiping out all cleaners of the branch single-handedly, it would require suppressing with absolute strength and would absolutely not be done so effortlessly. Especially when Leon hadn't even taken out any abnormal objects, merely raised his hand for a slap. Everyone's abnormal objects lost control en masse, instantly turning against, helping him counterattack their own masters. This is not normal. Through Hope's Heart Lake, observing the ever-absorbing, constantly devouring cleaners 3-headed black dogs, with Leon's aura growing higher than his own, Shuabai beneath the river's surface felt a chill on his scalp, experiencing for the first time a fear akin to Dongya's. The wave just made by the food god's clap was undoubtedly the secret technique of the cleanup bureau directors, the 13 palaces. I absolutely couldn't have mistaken it. But the bizarre aspect is, the effect of the secret technique he displayed does not resemble any existing palace's secret techniques. The effect of forcefully seizing the control of others' abnormal objects resembles the abnormal dominance of the Lion Palace, while the operation of transforming abnormal objects into 3-headed black dogs is akin to a variant of abnormal embodiment from Ophiuchus' palace. Then the subsequent swallowing and digesting, which could be used to boost one's power, looks like the composite of abnormal devouring from the Cancer Palace and abnormal absorption from Virgo Palace. Could it be he mastered 4 secret techniques in one go? And learned them to an extremely profound level, even creating the 14th unique secret technique belonging solely to him? Sorry, explaining the situation clearly and gaining your trust would probably take quite some time. And right now, what we're lacking the most is time, so I acted directly. While Shuabai hesitated whether to trust Dongya once and escape while there was still time, Leon actively came over and sincerely explained, facing the stupefied middle-aged man possessing Shuabai. Rest assured, those people I've just devoured, although their souls might be weak afterward and require a good period of recuperation, I can assure you, they will definitely not be in mortal danger. Mr. Hope, are you still unwilling to believe me? Upon hearing Leon's words, no matter if it was the middle-aged man with a buzzing mind or Shuabai residing in his heart lake, both couldn't help twitching the corners of their mouths. All of us from the Aquarius branch have been devoured by you. Does it even matter whether I believe you or not? I trust you. Facing Leon's clean and wipe-off method of gaining trust, as the only other survivor of the Aquarius branch, the middle-aged man felt utterly defeated and chose the only available path after a moment of silence. After all, if what Leon said was true, then the people of the Aquarius branch could still be saved. But if he was lying, it wouldn't matter whether he believed him or not. Leon, sir. Uneasily adding an honorific after Leon's name, the middle-aged man, with his heart lake in turmoil, powerlessly asked, "So what exactly are you planning to do? Take everyone from our Aquarius branch and head straight down to the Earth River to find Director Baltro." That was my initial thought. Leon nodded upon hearing this and then said sincerely, "But after hearing your analysis just now, I think your analysis makes a lot of sense. Clearly, the Earth's core conduit has been open for more than half a month, but the Slaughter King Association waited until Director Baltro entered the Earth River to take action, only to be caught by him. I also find this timing too coincidental. They likely have ulterior motives, seemingly preparing to unlock the Cleanup Bureau seal on the Stone Marrow realm, but actually intending to divert Director Baltro and take action on Rihi City. They might even be greedy enough to attempt both moves, to release the 3 clans trapped below, and also target the Ashido royal family in Rihi City. So what should we do? After listening to Leon's words, the female cleaner, having returned to her senses, couldn't help but ask anxiously, if the Slaughter King Association really plans to strike both sides simultaneously, should we stay to guard Rihi City or go down to find Uncle Grandpa? If we consider it from the most logical perspective, pursuing downwards might be the safer choice. Leon thought for a while before speaking. The ultimate goal of the Slaughter King Association is quite evident from their name. Their ultimate aim is to eliminate those who can enhance the Watcher's Palace, namely the royal families. And since you are of royal lineage, I can take you with me, ensuring that even if something happens to the royal family above, as long as you remain safe, the Slaughter King Association's purpose will not be fulfilled. Additionally, considering the worst-case scenario, if the seal of the Stone Marrow realm is indeed broken, then Director Baltro, who chased after them, would have to face both the Slaughter King Association and the 3 clans below, most likely landing in grave danger. If we hurry over immediately, we can not only prevent the Slaughter King Association's objectives but also keep Director Baltro safe, which should be the most secure choice at the moment, though. Although Leon didn't finish his sentence, everyone present understood what he implied. However, choosing this path would mean utterly abandoning the Northern Kingdom's royal family, including the entire populace of Rihi City. If the Slaughter King Association really is drawing the tiger away from the mountain, those left without protection could only face inevitable slaughter. So, is it the citizens of Rihi City on one hand and Uncle Grandpa and the safety of the Watcher's Palace on the other? When met with Leon's probing gaze, the female cleaner instinctively clenched her fist, her 2 beautiful large eyes filled with confusion. Just as Leon said, the most correct choice now naturally is to go underground first, to thwart the Slaughter King Association's plan and ensure Uncle Grandpa's safety. But the cost is too great. Glancing at the hesitating female cleaner, the middle-aged man Hope's eyes momentarily went blank. then frowned at Leon. It is our duty as cleaners to stand at the forefront of humanity, blocking those things beyond ordinary life and protecting the stability of the real world. If we choose to sacrifice the citizens of Rihi City, it would mean abandoning our duty. Next, although Sir Leon's proposed choice is the safest, it seems to lack confidence in Director Baltro. As the oldest qualified Yellow Road director, his strength is among the top. He may not necessarily fail to catch up with the Slaughter King Association's people. Moreover, Director Baltro has been pursuing them for a long time, probably already entering the Earth's core conduit. We almost can't catch up at their speed, so going down might actually be a burden. Therefore, we might as well focus on defending Rihi City first. When the middle-aged man paused for a moment, he then turned to the female cleaner, looking earnest yet slightly sorrowful. Finally, if the worst-case scenario actually occurs, then I believe Director Baltro will make the choice a cleaner should make, just like your mother did back then. The choice a cleaner should make. Upon hearing the middle-aged man's words, the female cleaner's body trembled slightly, and she bit her lip hard. Uncle Hope, you are right. Seemingly having made a decision, the female cleaner, with red-rimmed eyes, looked at Leon, her voice slightly trembling as she said, "Leon, we should stay. Uncle Grandpa told me that as a cleaner Boo-hoo. No, your Uncle Grandpa is still alive. Okay? Why are you acting as if he's about to have a funeral?" Watching the female cleaner, who went silent halfway through her sentence and suddenly started sobbing, Leon couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed. Aren't we brainstorming ways to maximize the benefits for both sides? How did the conversation suddenly skip the research and discussion stage, directly deciding to sacrifice your Uncle Grandpa, and then immediately turn into an emotional appeal? Sir Leon, perhaps influenced by the atmosphere, the previously despondent middle-aged man suddenly raised his head, looking at Leon, with tears in his tiger-like eyes. Stay and defend Rihi City. Director Baltro often told us that his greatest wish in life was not to die old without purpose, but to heroically sacrifice himself in the defense of humanities. Stop. Hold it right there. Not knowing how to react to the extraordinarily emotional outbursts of the two cleaners, Leon couldn't help but sarcastically remark, "Was Director Baltro treating you guys poorly or something? Why do I feel like you two can't wait for him to die? Please calm down and listen to me. Now is not. No. This is a necessary sacrifice." Interrupting Leon, the middle-aged man clenched his fists, passionately responding, "Director Baltro won't die in vain. His death will bring about... What's this? Something to help you calm down." Taking out a small bottle from the mirror world, after flicking a few drops of the viscous liquid inside at the middle-aged man, Leon pulled the female cleaner over and placed the small bottle in her hand. "Drink. It's best to drink it all." Looking at the peculiar small bottle in her hand, the female cleaner first sniffed it, then blinked in surprise, puzzlement filling her eyes. "The taste is so familiar. What's inside this bottle?" "Your saliva." "Huh. While you were unconscious on the Sky Clipper, drooling in your sleep, I casually collected some." After explaining the origin of the small bottle of calming saliva, having realized something amiss, Leon urged with a frown, "Hurry up and drink. You both have been affected. Drink it all first before continuing. I almost know what the Slaughter King Association is planning to do in Rihi City." After urging the female cleaner to drink up the little bottle of calming saliva, Leon touched the black goat's horn, observing the turbulent souls in Rihi City, and said with a frown, "The member of the Slaughter King Association on the Sky Clipper, who wore a wolf head mask, claims to be the god governing Illusion and Heart Lake. Once emotions run too high, he can disrupt the Heart Lake and control one through illusions. You must have been influenced by him just now." After briefly explaining the situation just now, Leon glanced at the two who had finally calmed down, and then continued, "If I'm not mistaken, that god of Illusion and Heart Lake might have left something similar to seeds in Rihi City before venturing underground. Now he's stimulating the Heart Lakes of all residents in Rihi City, just like he did to you." making their emotions unstable to amplify his authority, enhancing his power significantly. Correct. Upon hearing Leon's words, the snow wolf residing in the heart lake of the middle-aged man couldn't help but reveal a slightly smug smile. It's a shame that even if you figured out my plan, it's too late to do anything about it. Only the Aquarius chief, who has the power to render all citizens of Rihi City unconscious and forcefully calm their heart lakes, is now above ground. And that little girl beside you with the calm bloodline, although she also has the ability to suppress heart lakes, she hasn't grown yet. She couldn't possibly protect the nearly billion lives in Rihi City alone against the expanding valley seeds. So, fortunately, I was prepared. In the snow wolf's bewildered gaze, Leon took out a basin, then pointed to the slightly muddied water inside, and solemnly said, "You've already experienced the effects of calming saliva. For ordinary people without Leon value, just a tiny bit can immediately calm them enough to resist the influence of that heart lake god. Next, we can go to the underground hot river and pour in this last batch, then blow up all the pipeline furnaces in Rihi City. Once the hot water mixed with calming saliva flows through the city after the pipeline explosion, then that heart lake god's method will... Damn!" In Leon's shocked gaze, the middle-aged man, who stood by after a few drops of calming saliva were splashed on him, suddenly lunged and dunked his head into the basin in front of him. In less than a fraction of a second, the middle-aged man buried his face in the basin and gulped down the entire contents of water like a whale drinking water. "You just said this was your last batch, didn't you?" After drinking the water Leon had set out, the snow wolf controlling Hope's body faced Leon's surprised gaze with delight and said, "I admit, you're indeed a troublesome opponent, coming up with such absurd ideas. But unfortunately Oh, my apologies." Looking into the basin in his hand, Leon slightly smiled at the middle-aged man and then apologetically said, "I grabbed the wrong basin just now. This isn't calming saliva, it's, well, the water from washing my feet a few days ago, though it could count as my last bit of stock." Seeing Leon's slightly playful expression, the middle-aged man shouted in a mix of shock and anger, "Are you messing with me? Don't get me wrong, my time is precious. I have no time to mess with you." Pointing to the leather hat on the middle-aged man's head, which transformed into a black three-headed dog to watch closely over his soul, Leon smiled and explained, "Your Heart Lake authority is just too convenient. A small emotional fluctuation allows you to invade, and since your vessel is emotion, an intangible thing, it's hard to detect even when examining the soul. So if I were you, I definitely wouldn't waste such useful authority and would think of infiltrating my enemy's side. Even if I don't get the chance to stab them, eavesdropping on intelligence would be beneficial." Hearing this, the snow wolf couldn't help but widen his eyes abruptly. "So this person was intentionally left by you? You devoured all the other cleaners and left him to narrow down the target?" "Yes." Leon nodded and said, "Since you've controlled Melly once, you'd likely think I'm prepared. You might not choose her again, so you're most likely in the heart lake of another cleaner. If I devour all the others, you have no choice." Betrayed. Listening to the heavy breathing from the three-headed black dog above his head and feeling the drool dripping on his bald head, the middle-aged man controlled by the snow wolf couldn't help but say gloomily, "So you took out that basin to force me to act, to test if I'm in his heart lake?" "Yes. And besides that, if I could make the heart lake ripple intensely, maybe I could even snag a relevant badge. But unfortunately, the stimulation doesn't seem strong enough." Seeing Leon's slightly regretful expression, the snow wolf narrowed his brow and then expressionlessly said, "That means you don't have much calming saliva?" "Indeed, I don't." Leon nodded, then glanced at the female cleaner whose brain had crashed, and with a smile answered, "During those hours Melly slept on the sky clipper, she did drool quite a bit. But she's still human. No matter how much she drools, it can't fill a basin, let alone after dilution flooding the whole city." Phew. Good. After hearing Leon's words, the snow wolf controlling the middle-aged man couldn't help but slightly sigh with relief. However, But I plan to have Melly go to the underground hot river and enjoy a relaxing hot bath. Seeing the middle-aged man's eyes bulge suddenly, Leon smiled and said, although there's not much calming saliva, with her as the source of calm, there's plenty of calming bath water. Damn bastard! Glaring at Leon angrily, the snow wolf glanced at the blushing female cleaner beside him, then gritted his teeth and said, impossible! Her calm bloodline is outstanding but far from a true god. That diluted stuff can't measure up to my authority, only slow down the spread of my power. That's enough. Smiling at the snow wolf, Leon didn't respond but instead looked up at the sun setting in the west on the horizon. Just a few more hours, and it'll be completely dark, and the night is truly my arena. He probably has other trump cards in his hand. Through the eyes of the middle-aged bald man, peering into Leon's still calm heart lake, Snowy finally began to waver. The current calmness is far from mature. If it's just a river of diluted, calming bathwater, it absolutely can't help everyone in Rihi City avoid the invasion of their Heart Lake authority. At most it can only delay it for a few hours. By then, when I connect with the heart lakes of billions of life spirits, I will possess strength comparable to the director of the Zodiac branch office, and the food god must have already figured this out. But strangely, even in such a critical situation, his heart lake remained as calm as ever, without a trace of urgency. No matter how much I stimulate it, it's as stable as a lake of iron water, indicating that he made a judgment based on rationality, believing that the current situation is still under his control. Additionally, more unsettling than this rock-solid heart lake is that the food god doesn't seem to be deliberately suppressing his emotions. I can still feel his worry, dissatisfaction, and aversion, but when those emotions emerged from his soul and fell with a bang on his heart lake, they couldn't even make a pea-sized splash, immediately settling at the bottom under the scour of rationality, turning into quiet, smooth pebbles, not causing a ripple at all. But how could this be possible? Looking at Leon's terrifyingly stable heart lake, Snowy felt an inexplicable chill rising and flowing out from his heart. Most of the cleanup bureau's cleaners have personalities far more sensitive than ordinary people and emotions hundreds or thousands of times more intense, which allows them to be born with their own abnormal object. So in terms of heart lake stability, sometimes it might even be less than an ordinary person. Even someone as powerful and experienced as the Aquarius director, when I displayed an illusion in front of him, recreating the scene of the Northern Queen being killed 10 years ago, the intense emotions that erupted disturbed his heart lake, preventing him from completely escaping the illusion I constructed. In conclusion, a person's heart lake stability is not heavily related to their strength, but rather more influenced by personality and emotions, and a cleaner capable of birthing an abnormal object couldn't have particularly stable personality and emotions. But he's different, completely different, being dragged roughly towards the duct furnace, head in the mouths of 3 black dogs. The middle-aged man widened his eyes, staring intently at Leon's back in the distance. Finally, when the female cleaner blushed and jumped into Rihi to start producing large amounts of calming bathwater, Snowy, residing in the middle-aged man's heart lake, was utterly shocked to confirm his suspicion. Leon Lane, the renowned cleaner food god, the cleaner most wanted dead by the Slaughter King Association, a special powerhouse with at least several divine lives under his belt, hasn't even given birth to his own abnormal object. His heart lake isn't that of a cleaner, but that of a calm, rational, ordinary human. As for that cleaner sent on him, it's purely due to long-term contact with high-level abnormal objects, bit by bit being stained. But how could this be possible? With a second similar thought rising in his heart, Snowy's gaze at Leon no longer seemed like he was looking at a human, but rather something wearing a human skin. Theoretically, even ordinary people who haven't awakened an abnormal object, after enduring long-term immersion in a large amount of abnormal objects, can also gain the power of a cleaner. But under long-term contact with abnormal objects, ordinary people who haven't awakened an abnormal object couldn't possibly maintain rationality. They would either successfully awaken an abnormal object and become a normal cleaner or fail to withstand high-intensity immersion and gradually step toward madness, with no exceptions. Unless, He fundamentally refuses to acknowledge this world, resisting the urge to leave immediately, and looking again at Leon's heart lake, stable to the point of making a god sick, and feeling that unimaginably stubborn strange rationality. Snowy's actual face involuntarily twitched violently. Food god. Struggling a bit out of the dog's mouth, the middle-aged man, soaking wet from the steam and with water continuously dripping from his bald head, shouted towards Leon, who turned his head. "What are you planning to do?" ? Watching the female cleaner bathe, upon hearing this, Leon couldn't help but frown, glancing back at Snowy restrained by the black dog, unable to retreat from the middle-aged man's body. What's the problem with this guy? You can't fool me. Snowy's heart turned slightly cold being glanced at by Leon, but he then gritted his teeth and questioned. You haven't given birth to your own abnormal object, right? In the middle of distributing bathwater to all of Rihi City, Leon was completely unprepared for such an off-topic question, and was momentarily stunned. And Snowy, seeing his surprised expression, successfully confirmed his suspicion, then couldn't help but widen his eyes, shouting sharply, "So you don't acknowledge this world at all? Are you even planning to destroy it directly? Is that it? Huh?" Listening to the middle-aged man who asked, "Is that it?" but in a tone incredibly certain, as if he had already confirmed this thought, Leon found himself unable to hold it together. "No. How do you deduce from me not having an abnormal object that I'm planning world destruction? Why can't I figure out the logic here? You can't fool me." Seeing Leon, whose aura in the dim corner above the river gave a hypnotic and ethereal air reminiscent of a nighttime nightmare, the passive effect of the nightmare is deepest fear in darkness badge. Snowy gritted his teeth and said, "An ordinary person without an awakened abnormal object could never endure a true god-level abnormal object, and would just collapse into insanity under continuous immersion, not displaying rationality like you. So from the start, you were crazy. Only someone who utterly believed in their own perception, denying everything from the heart, not even acknowledging the entire world, could possess a heart lake like yours, rejecting all influence." Can't entirely say it's wrong? After listening to Snowy, Leon couldn't help leaning into himself a bit, discovering that although his deduction was wildly inaccurate, and even seemed somewhat idiotic, in some ways it wasn't completely incorrect. For instance, I indeed find this world unscientific, and truly don't quite acknowledge this world's way of running. Also thinking the disorder of the 12 kingdoms isn't your average problem, having even considered doing something early on. From the perspective of a native of this world, my mental state and cognition could hardly be considered normal, perhaps like a stable neurotic patient? He didn't refute. He actually didn't refute. Looking at Leon, who after listening to his words, pondered for a moment and then showed a slight sense of agreement in his eyes, Snowbay's suspended heart finally broke completely. Good news, he guessed right. Bad news, he actually guessed right. The major enemy of the Slaughter King Association, a once-in-a-millennium genius cleaner of the Cleanup Bureau, who researched the 14th secret technique, is destined to become one of the 12 directors and even has a great chance of becoming the next director of the Cleanup Bureau. Turns out he's a madman planning to destroy the world. Imagining the scenario if Leon continues to rise, and then becomes one of the 12 directors, or even the next director of the Cleanup Bureau, reaching the pinnacle of the human race, Snowbay couldn't help but shiver fiercely. Faced with such a terrifying future, even though in a hostile state with the Cleanup Bureau, he couldn't help but feel a sense of tension for the Bureau and even all of humanity. Then an incredibly huge resentment surged in his heart. Damn Cleanup Bureau. Such a deadly thunder was buried right under your noses. And you didn't notice a bit? None of you realized that he didn't have his own abnormal object? At least test it or something. Looking at Leon, who turned his head to look at him with a strange smile on his face but dark and fierce in his eyes, Snowbay, for the first time in his long divine life, hoped that the Cleanup Bureau could be a bit more competent. The bastards of the Cleanup Bureau, just a bunch of blind flying squirrels. A pile of mud that can't stick to the wall. A group of zombies with rotten brains. Do you know? If you really let this madman become your director of the Cleanup Bureau, gaining the power to control the fate of all humanity and even the entire world, then it's all over. The current greatest aim of our Slaughter King Association is to shake off the supervision of the Cleanup Bureau and gain the qualification to freely enter the present world. We don't want destruction, but to descend without restrictions and fully enjoy this bountiful world. But this person from your bureau, he damn well plans to destroy everything. Damn it! Are all of you in the Cleanup Bureau blind? Can't anyone tell that something's not right with him? How can you all be so useless? You might have a slight misunderstanding about me. After glancing at Snowbay, whose expression was getting more tense and whose eyes were flashing with a myriad of emotions, considering how slippery this guy was, and that he might not be able to catch him this time, to prevent him from going to the Cleanup Bureau to report him, Leon had to explain full of exasperation. I'm actually a good person, having no plans to destroy the world. Heh! Faced with Leon's sincere explanation from the heart, Snowbay, residing in the heart lake of the middle-aged man, coldly sneered, treating it as utter nonsense. Although the authority of fake fantasy was not triggered, proving that what the madman in front said was true, but when he tricked him into drinking foot wash before, didn't he speak not a single false word? This damn madman is a natural-born liar, the kind who can effortlessly deceive others without any lies. Not a single word from his mouth can be believed. Commotion, pause. Seeing Snowbay obviously not listening, Leon couldn't help but shake his head helplessly, then opened the badge panel, finding the Black Hand of Slaughter King badge obtained after the destruction of Kralik Kingdom. Black Hand of Slaughter King, a mysterious figure targeting the destruction of major kingdoms. Badge effect, when ambushing hostile targets with royal family identity, and when not discovered by the target or any witnesses, your attack will have a 100% deadly effect. Your efficiency and concealment will be greatly improved when doing illegal activities, when planning a conspiracy, when intentionally hiding your identity, when you actively lurk in the shadows. Advanced route, once completely overthrowing all existing human kingdoms. This badge will automatically advance to the heterochromatic hidden badge Grand Curtain King, Iron Black. Hidden trait, no need to wear although you are cautious, meticulous, and cunningly crafty with extremely perfect concealment. Conspiracy theory enthusiasts who are by nature suspicious and extremely vigilant can still smell the hidden dark aura from you. So this fake fantasy and Heart Lake god should be those extreme conspiracy theorists, thereby triggering the passive effect of Black Hand of Slaughter King. After finding the biggest reason for Snowbay's wild guessing in the hidden trait column of Black Hand of Slaughter King, Leon couldn't help but glance at the middle-aged man, then turned his head away, ignoring him, and instead put all his spirit into the mirror world, starting to destroy the relief pressure valve of the underground pipe furnace in Rihi City, preparing to flood the city. If you want to guess blindly, then just guess. At least now I'm a prospective Aquarius director, plus the only one who can connect to the Watcher's Palace, so even if you go to report, it's useless. The directors of Taurus and others would have to be crazy to believe you. Additionally, with Mr. Hope as the bait, I've already successfully captured a part of your will, and once the night falls completely and after resolving the aftermath in Rihi City, I can follow this part of will all the way to you. Let's see where you can run by then. He wants to kill me. Under the dual reinforcement of Nightmare is the deepest fear of the night and Black Hand of Slaughter King. Leon's aura now appeared sinister and dark, appearing overflowing with a surge of murderous intent when falling into Snowbay's eyes. Preparing to silence me for uncovering your secret? Looking at the menacing and dangerous silhouette standing over the dark river. In the deeper underground, Snowbay couldn't help but shudder, then suddenly opened his eyes wide. Bring it on then. Through the eyes and soul of the middle-aged man, after feeling that intense killing intent, Snowbay's heart lake, previously as calm as Leon's, finally surged fiercely under the intense stimulation, echoing with waves crashing in his chest. I admit, you indeed are a formidable opponent, and Dongya's fear for you is not without reason, but I may not necessarily lose to you. Feeling the numerous seeds in Rihi City rapidly growing, ultimately turning into flames scouring everything, Snowbay couldn't help but look up, locking onto a stern heart lake through the unfathomable distance. Unrealized talents are meaningless no matter what secret technique you create, regardless of how powerful you can become in the future. Compared to me now, you are still a weakling. And as long as the night falls completely, the suppression from the serenity bloodline will be broken through by the seeds I spread. And I will gain power you cannot resist under the offerings of hundreds of millions of beings, perhaps even grasping the supreme power belonging only to the Pillar God. Even if I risk my life today, I must eliminate you, this potential threat to the world. How much longer do I have to soak in this? As the fantasy and the hot-blooded spirit of the Heart Lake God rose up, ready to go all out in a deadly battle with Leon for the future of the entire world, the female cleaner, soaking limp, emerged from the river and weakly shouted to Leon in the distance. I can't take it anymore. I really can't soak any longer and, I can hardly drink anymore either. Hold on a little longer. After glancing back at the middle-aged man whose entire head was clamped by a black dog and had shown no new signs for quite a while, Leon used the mirror world to remotely observe the flood situation in Rihi City and loudly answered, "We still need a bit more. The authority of the Heart Lake God is still spreading, and I'm not ready here yet. You have to hold on a little longer." But I can hardly hold on. This water is really hard to drink. Keep it up. You can do it. Seeing the female cleaner's shriveled hand and back soaked in water, Leon couldn't help but sigh helplessly with sympathy, then tried hard to cheer her up. Think of your Northern Kingdom's royal family. Think of your brother and father. Think of the citizens of Rihi City. You're the only one who can save them now. But, Melly, didn't you say your dream is to be like your mother, standing in front of the entire tribe to protect all humankind? Now is the time for you to realize your dream. Hearing Leon's encouragement, the female cleaner in the hot river opened her mouth, her little flushed face full of hesitation. Although I did say that, and I'm prepared to sacrifice myself for my fellow people, I imagined realizing my dream by fighting the outer god valiantly in desperate situations, not by having the whole city soak in my bathwater. Besides, if I die on the battlefield defending humanity, at least I die gloriously, but how would this sacrifice be counted? On the memorial wall of the Aquarius branch in the future, others' death reasons will say they sacrificed their precious life to save XXX, but mine says I was on a mission soaking in a hot spring and died heroically because I soaked for too long. This is too embarrassing. Just after a moment of wild thinking, even though she was full of reluctance, the female cleaner finally lay back into the steaming river, blowing a series of bubbles filled with resentment. No way. The threat posed by the Heart Lake God is too great right now, and only someone with calmness like me can slightly resist his Heart Lake, so I have to grit my teeth and keep going. Wait, hold on. Previously, while soaking in the underground hot river, I hadn't noticed it much, but after briefly surfacing and then going back down, being blown by the wind above the underground river twice, the female cleaner couldn't help but shiver slightly, with a sensation faintly on the verge of erupting. No, really, I can't hold this any longer. Hurriedly surfacing from the river, she quickly paddled to the shore. The female cleaner's face, flushed red from soaking, looked up at Leon with a face of misunderstanding, and somewhat bashfully said, "I'm not stopping soaking, but I need to come up for a while." Come up for a while? Upon hearing this, Leon furrowed his brows and was just about to persuade her that the situation is really urgent. It'd be best to hold on a bit longer. But then he noticed her bashful expression and the way her slender legs were tightly clamped underwater. Right, she did drink a lot of water just now. She indeed needs to relieve herself a bit. Nodding in understanding, Leon was just about to step aside, giving her space for a satisfying relief, when he suddenly sensed something, abruptly stood up, and looked towards Rihi City above. Almost at the moment when the female cleaner emerged from the river, countless agitated souls in Rihi City began to extend and connect with each other, faintly appearing in a very strange synchronization, seemingly wanting to gather together. At the same time, Leon, who originally couldn't perceive the Heart Lake, finally, through nearly 1 billion rapidly connecting souls, faintly sensed the existence of the Heart Lake. Those scattered little puddle-like heart lakes, as they gathered together, were already starting to transform from blurry symbols into real entities. A massive heart lake beyond imagination was rapidly taking shape beneath nearly 1 billion souls in Rihi City. Moreover, if the stones cast by the heart lake god fell separately into those small puddle-like heart lakes in everyone's minds, no matter how powerful or heavy the stone was, it could only splash a few insignificant splashes. But with nearly 1 billion heart lakes merging together, providing a broader lake surface and a more accommodating depth, the stone, thrown by the heart lake god, already had the ability to trigger a tsunami capable of destroying everything. Damn it, why is the sun setting so slowly today? Staring through the mirror reflected by the mirror world, watching the sun that clearly had reached 7:30 p.m., but still hadn't completely descended below the horizon, Leon's brows furrowed tighter and tighter, then turned to look at the female cleaner preparing to come ashore. Melly! Ah! Being stared at by Leon's overly serious gaze, an uneasy premonition surged up in the female cleaner's heart. And the development indeed was as she thought. After a brief silence, Leon hesitantly proposed, "How about you just don't come ashore?" Day? The situation above is a bit off. Facing the bewildered look from the female cleaner, Leon couldn't help but cough dryly, then explained with full eyes of helplessness. For some reason, today's sunset is nearly an hour later than expected, and the progress on the Heart Lake God side is also faster than I'd predicted. The situation in Rihi City is a bit unsustainable. It feels like just relying on the calmness bath water. There's a high possibility we can't hold down the ever-growing authority of the Heart Lake God, which would allow him to achieve the Yellow Road Director level first. So, we might need something with a higher concentration of calmness. So, this means you want me to resolve it directly in the lake, and then suppress the Heart Lake God's authority with calmness of... After finally understanding Leon's intention, the female cleaner couldn't help but shake her head sharply, instantly turning the braid behind her head into a little drumstick of a poppy drum. No, no, no. I definitely can't do this. I mean, I am at least. You are the cleaner of the Aquarius branch, the princess of the Northern Kingdom, the future director of the Cleanup Bureau. After interrupting the female cleaner's words, Leon crouched down and stared into her eyes, strangely persuading. Melly, now is the time to prove your beliefs. The Heart Lake God is about to succeed. Only you have the ability to turn the tide. That's true, but I can't turn the tide by unleashing a torrent. Right? That's too. We have no time for hesitation anymore. After sensing the rolling waves being stirred by the Heart Lake above, Leon couldn't help but take a deep breath, then urged repeatedly. I know it's indeed a bit difficult for you, but just think about the current situation. If we let the Heart Lake God succeed, the entire Northern Kingdom might be turned into a swamp. But there's no time for but. The residents of Rihi City need you to. The citizens of the Northern Kingdom need you to. Even all of humanity needs you to. Placing his hand on the soaked shoulders of the unsure female cleaner, pressing her back into the water with slight force, Leon turned back, struggling not to burst out laughing as he shouted loudly. Melly, move quickly. Move your legs. Take action now. On one side is the world, and on the other is integrity. Faced with this seemingly difficult choice that was actually not hard at all, the female cleaner, after taking a big gulp of water, had to endure the nearly explosive sense of shame in her heart and tremblingly loosened. Who are you? A loud shout came from behind Leon, startling the female cleaner so much that she almost lost control and added something extra to the river on the spot. At the same time, looking at the strange man in front of him with his back turned, placing some thing into the underground hot river, the King of Harvey, with marks on his neck, couldn't help but widen his eyes and sternly asked while raising the unclogging stick in his hand. How did you get down here? Are you the one causing the anomaly in the underground hot river? Question mark. Leon was slightly startled when he heard the inquiry. After looking back in confusion, he discovered a blue-haired young man with a big beard, leading a team of strong men in metal diving suits, swarming out from the descending ladder of the pipeline furnace. Headed by the blue-haired young man, those burly men in strange attire, holding hooks and unclogging tools that looked obviously heavy, blocked the submersible dock by the underground hot river completely, surrounding him tightly in the middle. These people, are they the ones responsible for managing the pipeline furnace in the Northern Kingdom? After identifying their attire, Leon nodded knowingly. In order to spread the water of the underground hot river quickly, he had almost destroyed all the pipeline furnaces in Rihi City. Naturally, those responsible for handling the furnaces would come down to check the situation. But now the time is tight, and there's no time to bicker with them. However, just as Leon was about to take action and temporarily knock out these workers, the female cleaner, who popped her head out after hearing the commotion, pushed aside her wet hair and exclaimed in surprise, Bro! Hearing the female cleaner's words, both Leon and the blue-haired young man were taken aback simultaneously. Leon, who reacted first, glanced at the blue-haired young man's eyebrows not hidden by his beard, and then at his hair color, which was the same as the female cleaner's. His eyes suddenly revealed a look of realization. That's it, if he shaved the big beard covering his face. This man's eyebrows are at least 40% similar to Melly's, so he should be her elder brother, the current king of the Northern Kingdom. At the same time, following the female cleaner's voice, upon seeing that familiar face, the blue-haired young man went from surprise to anger, then immediately rushed over, angrily wielding the gigantic unclogging stick. Let go of my sister. Ah! Though being knocked to the ground by Leon after losing the unclogging stick, the blue-haired young man managed to get close enough, where his eyes immediately focused. Grasping tightly onto a beast tooth hidden in his palm, he prepared to use the life-saving abnormal object the Aquarius director gave him to rescue his sister, who appeared in the hot river for some unknown reason. But at this moment, the female cleaner in the hot river seemed to recall something, suddenly extending a dripping wet arm to grip his wrist, stopping the activation of the beast tooth, then exclaimed to Leon with eyes full of excitement, Quick! Throw him down here too! Huh? Unlike the blue-haired young man who was dumbfounded on the spot, Leon immediately understood the female cleaner's intention to add more, then looked at the dazed Harvey and asked, Have you had enough to eat? Huh? The blue-haired young man's mind, almost crashing due to the absurdity and inability to keep up with Leon and the female cleaner's thought process, subconsciously nodded. Immediately afterward, he felt his collar tighten, then was lifted violently into the air, being exceptionally roughly hoisted by his neckline, and then thrown with a splash into the boiling underground hot river. Your Majesty Harvey, you truly came at the perfect time. After genuinely praising him, Leon pressed the blue-haired king's terrified face into the river, scrubbing vigorously, attempting to expedite the dissolution of the calm into the river water. With the addition of the second calm source, the calm bathwater, that originally had its concentration decreased significantly, instantly intensified again, with a hazy light blue glow emerging on the river surface. Huh? Seeing the madman holding down his majesty and scrubbing him in the river, the emergency dispatched uncloggers from the pipeline department nearly went insane, rushing at him with their tools in hand. However, to save Rihi City, Leon, who was vigorously scrubbing the king, had no time to bother with them and only turned his head to glare fiercely. The slight spillage of the Fear Authority instantly knocked down more than 40 pipeline workers. Aren't you? Glug glug. Aren't you Melly? Seeing the female cleaner who took over his work and scrubbed him vigorously in the underground hot river while Leon was handling the pipeline workers and temporarily had no time to play with him, the angry and regretful blue-haired king couldn't help but inquire with eyes full of confusion. If you're not her, how? Glug glug. Did you know I have? That old man's. Glug. I am Melly. You didn't mistake me. After stuffing the beast tooth back into his arms, the female cleaner, who averted the crisis of public humiliation, shouted gratefully to her elder brother. No time to explain, just stay put. Soak here. Whether Rihi City can be saved depends on if you can buy enough time. Still can't hold it. Looking at the blazing white fireball gradually sinking on the sundial, the director of Taurus, whose expression was somewhat weary, couldn't help but rub his eyebrows. The 1-second sun mobilized through the sundial can be used at night, but the intensity is only slightly over half of what it is during the day, not as reliable. And considering that Leon should have already met up with Baltro and might need the sundial as support, he and Pisces had delayed the Northern Kingdom's sunset a bit more. But Leon never sent a signal, so it seems I've been busy for nothing. Mr. Taurus. After resting a bit, the director of Pisces, similarly wearing a weary expression, summoned a mirror with a wave and proposed, "Let's take a look at Leon's situation first. He should have already met up with Baltro by now. If we wait until they enter the Earth's core passage, it'll be tough to see them." After nodding in agreement, the director of Taurus placed the mirror on a stand and then brushed the mirror surface with his hand. With a fleeting azure Aquarius pattern, this significantly more advanced celestial globe mirror directly embedded itself into the stand, then across a distance of nearly 100,000 kilometers, locked onto the location where a certain reserve Aquarius director was indeed already in the river. Seeing the steamy scene on the other side of the mirror, the two directors nodded in satisfaction, feeling significantly more relaxed. With Leon and Baltro there, the Northern Kingdom's underground passage should be secure, and there's no need to worry about the Northern royal family. What is Leon doing? After brushing the mirror surface again, watching Leon pressing a man down and scrubbing him vigorously in the river, the two directors were momentarily stunned, then curiously exchanged a glance. Has he already captured someone from the Slaughter King Association and is torturing them in the river? Interrogating? But Leon shouldn't have been in the north for long. How come his actions are so swift this time? Don't blame me, huh? While the two directors were utterly perplexed, a soft, apologetic voice came from the mirror. A certain reserve Aquarius director. "I know it's not pleasant, but I'm also forced to do this. I believe Your Majesty Harvey will surely understand, right?" Harvey, Your Majesty?